Hello, and welcome to another video. This is the second episode of the story, in which Jiraiya finds his 10-year-old godson not being cared for. After returning from one of his missions, Jiraiya decides to take Naruto and train him. How will things change? Please like and subscribe to show your support. Now, let us begin. A few days had passed since Team 8 and Kakashi arrived. Kakashi and Kurenai spent a lot of time each day they were there training the young genin. Naruto in the short span of time they were there had greatly improved with his sword. Kakashi had taught Naruto how to push chakra through the sword to strengthen it. Naruto however was unable to use his element in conjunction with the sword yet. In a few hours, they would be accompanying Tazuna to the bridge to guard him as he and his workers completed the bridge. Kakashi and Kurenai were sitting on a tree branch together. They had up until this point kept a strictly professional attitude when around each other. They knew the mission was soon going to be over, or at least the dangerous portion of the mission. Kurenai kissed him on the cheek, causing a light blush to appear on his cheeks. "So how has your training with Naruto been?" Kurenai asked. "He is a natural fighter, and great with a sword," Kakashi replied. "But he's hiding the abilities he learned from Jiraiya." "Why do you say that?" "The only thing he has shown me when we spare with or without the katana is his proficiency in shadow clones and his odd style of taijutsu. I know Jiraiya would have trained him in some ninjutsu and even the summoning jutsu." "So you're just a little depressed he won't show you what he's capable of?" "Yeah, I guess I am, now that I really think about it." Kurenai giggled, snuggling next to Kakashi. "Those three have progressed quite a bit since they came here, haven't they?" Kakashi looked down at the three genin. They were at the base of the tree resting from their short practice this morning. "Indeed they have. Hinata seems to have gained a lot more confidence in her own abilities the past few days. And Shino has been focusing mainly on his taijutsu, which has improved." "What about your team, Kakashi?" Kakashi looked up at the cloudy sky. "Good question. I hope when I get back Ebisu has been able to get them started." "I'm sure he has. Ebisu may be a bit of an oddball, but he is a good teacher. Maybe once we get back we can have our teams train a bit together. They could learn a thing or two from each other. Kami knows Sasuke could learn a thing or two from Naruto." Kakashi wasn't referring to ninjutsu or any type of fighting skills. He was referring to Naruto's inability to hold a grudge against the villagers for what they have done to him. Kurenai smiled. "Alright, we can give it a try." Down near the base of the tree, Hinata was sitting in Naruto's lap. She was quite content with where she was. They had just finished talking with Haku, who had left a few minutes ago. Over the past few days they talked about many things like Shino's bugs, Naruto's sword and why Hinata and no pupils in her eyes. The four of them became fast friends over that short period. Haku liked Naruto's prank stories, as did Shino and Hinata. Hinata snuggled a little to get more comfortable. She closed her eyes and thought about what happened a few days ago. Flashback: it was the morning after Hinata had pulled Naruto into bed with her. Hinata was starting to wake up. "This pillow is so firm," she mumbled. She started to snuggle with said pillow. She wrapped both her arms around it. Hinata's head was lying on Naruto's chest. Everyone else in the house was currently watching this scene unfold from the open door. They heard Hinata mumbled in her sleep. They were trying very hard not to laugh right now. It finally hit Hinata that she had fallen asleep outside. But if she had fallen asleep outside, how did she get into this bed, and why was there a human-sized pillow? Her eyes shot open in realization of what a human-sized pillow could be. She looked at the material of her so-called pillow. Her gaze quickly went to Naruto's face. He was awake and looking right at her. Naruto had woken up when Hinata started her mumbling and snuggling bit. Hinata shot up, her eyes wide. "Naru, bed, same, you," Hinata said in a jumbled mess. Hinata hyperventilated, quickly passing out, falling back on top of Naruto. About 5 seconds passed before Hinata began to move. Naruto blushed hard when a now passed out Hinata was starting to snuggle up against him again. No one in the doorway could help it any longer. They laughed, and laughed, and laughed. Kakashi and Kurenai fell backwards laughing. It was one of the funniest things they had ever seen. Tsunami and Tazuna were able to stand but barely. Shino was laughing as well, which was something he had never done before, at least around others. Inari was doubled over laughing, laughs coming out so hard, he was crying. End flashback. Hinata was brought out of her thoughts when Shino began to talk. So you and Hinata were trying to keep your relationship from everyone? Shino asked, curiosity finally getting the best of him. Shino asked that question since he found out they were dating already. Yeah, her clan and most others don't like me, for now it's best like this, Naruto replied. Hinata looked down. She didn't understand why they didn't like him. Why is that though? Shino asked. I mean, I don't see why they hate you. It's complicated, Shino, Naruto replied. Naruto was a bit depressed. Once this mission was over, he and Hinata would have to start acting the way they had been before the mission. Kakashi and Kurenai jumped down from the tree above. Naruto, you can tell them if you want, Kakashi said. After the mission is done, Naruto replied. Well, if Gato is going to make an attempt on Tazuna's life, it will be today, Kakashi said, getting everyone's attention. Why is that? Hinata asked. The bridge would be the best place to set up an ambush, that's why, he replied. What about Tsunami and Inari? Naruto asked. I was going to ask you to stay here and protect them, Kakashi replied. Here, take this earpiece. If we need you at the bridge, I'll call you over the radio. But before you leave, you must find a safe place for Tsunami and Inari, Kakashi said, handing Naruto the earpiece. Alright, I guess that works, Naruto said. He put the earpiece in and gave it a quick test. With Zabuza was sitting in his chair thinking. He had just sent the Demon Brothers and Haku to the bridge ahead of him to either kill or disable the workers. He figured Haku would just disable them instead of kill them. He was excited today, all things considered. The only reason being was the chance to fight a strong opponent. He became a different person when the chance of fighting a strong opponent arises. I wonder who's better? Me, or the copycat ninja, he thought. Zabuza knew he had to leave. He grabbed his sword and disappeared from the room. At the bridge, Kakashi, Kurenai, Hinata, Shino and Tazuna had just arrived at the bridge to see all the workers lying on the ground. What happened here? Tazuna yelled. It seems we have company, Kakashi said. He was looking at the mist that was now forming at the other end of the bridge. Naruto, we could use a hand over here, Kakashi said over the radio. Coming, voice came in reply. The Demon Brothers, Zabuza Momochi, and what looked like a Kiri Hunter ninja were standing just outside of the ever-growing mist. So good of you to come, copycat ninja. Looks like you are missing someone from your little group, Zabuza said. Oh, he's coming, don't worry, Kakashi replied. Well then I guess we should get this party started before he arrives then, Zabuza said darkly. I had a feeling I'd be seeing you two again, Kakashi said. He was addressing the Demon Brothers who were ready to fight. Kakashi, I'll take the Demon Brothers, you can have Zabuza, Kurenai said. My apologies, Kurenai-sensei, but my bugs are useless in that mist. It isn't normal, Shino said, in a low voice so only his team could hear. Kurenai nodded. Hinata, you take the fake hunter ninja. Shino, you stay back and protect the bridge builder. Hi, Shino and Hinata said in unison. Shino jumped back to Tazuna to guard him in case someone got by. Hinata was nervous. This was her first time attacking an opponent who was going to try to kill her. Hinata activated her Byakugan and took up a gentle fist stance. I have to be strong. I can do this. Hinata thought repeatedly. With Naruto had made several clones to act as sentries and alert him when someone was coming. Naruto was currently sitting in the house drinking some tea and talking with Inari and Tsunami. "Do you think my grandfather will be alright?" Inari asked. He was so nervous he was shaking. "I'm sure he'll be fine. My team and Kakashi are there. They won't let anything happen to him," Naruto replied. One of Naruto's shadow clones had just dispersed, sending him the information that some of Gato's men were coming. "What is it, Naruto?" Tsunami asked. "Could you guys go upstairs? We have company," Naruto said. Tsunami nodded and took Inari upstairs with her. Naruto calmly finished his tea. He heard the door open and footsteps coming closer. Two thugs entered the room Naruto was in. Both carried swords around their waists. "Well, look what we have here." A runt with a rather nice-looking sword, said one of the thugs. "Where are Tsunami and Inari?" he asked. Good question. Where are they?" Naruto said, answering the man with another question. The two men were irritated with the boy's response. The other swordsman got a wicked idea. "Hey, didn't you have a girl on your team with purple hair?" he asked. His partner got what he was getting at. "Yeah, let's go pay her a visit." The cup in Naruto's hand shattered. "I will not let you touch her," Naruto stated angrily. "Oh? And what are you going to do about it, runt?" one of the thugs asked. "I'm going to kill you," Naruto replied darkly as he drew his sword. Both men pulled out their own swords. What can a runt like him do, both of them thought. The shorter of the two thugs decided to agitate Naruto more. "Oh, is she your girl or something? Because she was kind of cute. I wouldn't mind, you know." That was the last thing the thug ever said. The second after he finished, his body slumped to the floor. His head rolled along the floor, knocking into the foot of his partner. The other thug fell backwards. He tried to make a run for it, but Naruto's sword pierced the man's heart. Before the man died, Naruto picked him up by the collar of his shirt and said, "For your information, her hair is indigo, not purple." He then threw the man's now dead body against the wall. "Well, that was absolutely brutal. You didn't even hesitate to end both their lives. And all because of your vixen." "I give the kill an 8 out of 10, the fox said. "Shut up, fuzzball, I don't want to think about what I've just done," Naruto replied. Naruto moved the bodies out of sight. He didn't want Inari to see what he did. Tsunami came down the stairs to see the blood. "Are you alright, Naruto?" she asked in a worried tone. Naruto's radio came to life. "Naruto, we could use a hand over here." "Coming," Naruto replied. "Yeah, I'm fine, just get yourself and Inari to a friend's house and make sure he doesn't see all the blood." "I'll send a few shadow clones with you," Naruto said. Naruto created a few shadow clones, and quickly left for the bridge. At the bridge, Kurenai and Kakashi stood in front of the Demon Brothers and Zabuza. Both parties were not moving. They were watching their opponents, waiting for an opening. The mist was hindering Kurenai's genjutsu abilities somehow. "Well, it seems that girl isn't half bad when it comes to taijutsu," Zabuza said as he watched the fight between Hinata and Haku. XXXXXXXXX. Hinata ducked under a punch from Haku. She did a sweeping motion with her feet to try and trip Haku, but he just back-flipped away. He jumped back with a Senbon in his hand. He jabbed with the Senbon, but Hinata parried and struck him in the chest with a Juken strike. "It seems I will not be able to do this for long," he thought. "I'm sorry, but I have to end this." Haku jumped back a short distance to perform his jutsu. "Demonic ice mirrors," he said, as giant mirrors made of ice appeared all around Hinata. Hinata stood in the center of what looked like a prison made of ice. She fell back into her gentle fist stance. The mirrors were made of ice and chakra. Even with her Byakugan, she couldn't tell which mirror the ninja was in. XXXXXXXXX. Zabuza smirked. "I hope you two aren't planning to go anywhere, seeing as if you do, the old man will die." Kurenai and Kakashi nodded to one another and began their own fights. Kakashi drew his sword and lunged at Zabuza. Kurenai took out 2 kunai and threw them at the demon brothers. XXXXXXXXX Haku appeared in all the mirrors, and Hinata knew she was in trouble. I do not wish to kill you. Please surrender and I will spare your life, Haku said. Hinata knew that voice but she couldn't think of where she had heard it. I'm sorry but I cannot do that, she replied. Haku began slow, only throwing Senbon from a few mirrors at a time. Hinata was flexible and with her recent sparring sessions, she was able to dodge all the Senbon for now. Haku increased his speed and a few of the Senbon hit home digging into Hinata's right arm. Hinata yelped in pain when 4 of the Senbon dug into her arm. XXXXXXXXXX Kurenai wanted to run over and help her but she couldn't break away from the demon brothers. She ducked under one of their claws and delivered a massive right hook to the man's face. The other demon brother 5 shuriken from the mist, one of them grazed Kurenai's shoulder. XXXXXXXXX, well Kakashi, that is quite the woman, Zabuza said, referring to Kurenai. They exchanged a few more strikes between their blades. We should really stop messing around, Zabuza, Kakashi stated. Kakashi removed his headband from his left eye revealing his Sharingan. I would have to agree with you Kakashi, we really should, Zabuza said. He jumped back into the thicker part of the mist. Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi and slashed him in half, but Kakashi turned into water. Zabuza's eyes widened when Kakashi appeared behind him and cut him in 2 with his katana. Zabuza turned into water as well. Well, it seems you know the water clone jutsu, Kakashi. The 2 veteran shinobi continued their deadly game, each trying to think of how to best the other. XXXXXXXXX Naruto finally arrived at the bridge. He was worried the entire bridge was covered in mist, he really couldn't see anything inside. He ran into the mist where he found Shino and Tazuna. Naruto began to panic. Where is Hinata? He asked. Shino pointed in the direction of the prison-made ice mirrors. Naruto arrived at the ice mirrors to see Hinata lying on the ground. She had about 2 dozen Senbon sticking out of her. Hinata's coat had turned a red tint from all the blood. Naruto could only stare. The rage that he felt any other time in his life was nothing compared to right now. A red chakra began to swirl around him. His eyes turning blood red with slits. His hands were becoming more like claws, and the scars on his cheeks darkened, becoming more pronounced. Naruto ran straight at the ice mirrors, fully intent on killing whoever hurt Hinata. XXXXXXXXX The veteran shinobi all stopped their attacks at that moment. A massive wave of killer intent and malicious chakra had swept over the bridge. Kakashi knew this chakra, he had felt it once before. What happened to Naruto's seal, he thought. The same thought was running through Kurenai's mind as well. Zabuza wasn't sure what was going on. He had never felt anything so evil or powerful before. Sorry Zabuza, but we need to end this, Kakashi said, pulling out a scroll from his vest and smearing some blood on it. XXXXXXXXXX Kurenai took advantage of the moment and got a clean hit on one of the demon brothers, knocking him unconscious. She turned to the other one and throwing 2 kunai at him. The remaining demon brother blocked them with his gauntlet. XXXXXXXXX Naruto burst through one of the mirrors and landed next to Hinata. Naruto looked at Hinata's still form. His anger peaked, sending out another wave of chakra. The wave of chakra was so intense the mirrors cracked. At this rate I won't stand a chance, Haku thought. Haku threw Senbon from every mirror at once. Naruto didn't move, and every Senbon hit. Naruto began to laugh as every Senbon popped out of him and his wounds sealed themselves. Naruto looked directly at Haku. I'm going to kill you, Naruto said. Haku had one last chance. He jumped out of his mirror that was behind Naruto, going directly for his brain stem with his Senbon. Naruto turned around and grabbed Haku by the throat. Any last words? Naruto said, tightening his grip around Haku's throat. XXXXXXXXXX Kakashi readied his jutsu. That second wave of chakra had him very worried. Well Zabuza, it's been fun, Kakashi said. Summoning technique, earth release, tracking Fang. Kakashi exclaimed, slamming his hand on the ground. Kakashi's dogs appeared beneath Zabuza, latching onto him as they came out of the ground. The mist instantly began to lessen around the bridge. That is quite the jutsu, Kakashi, it seems you win, Zabuza stated. XXXXXXXXX, I'm sorry, Haku said. You're sorry? That's all you can say? Naruto replied. Naruto was about to crush Haku's neck when a hand grabbed his leg. Naruto looked down. Hinata was looking right at him, she was crying. Please let Haku go, she said weakly. Naruto's anger melted away, and his eyes turned back to their original color. He took off the mask, revealing the boy he was about to kill was in fact Haku. The mirrors around them shattered as Naruto released Haku. After Naruto removed the Senbon, he picked Hinata up bridal style. He held her tightly as if she was about to disappear. Haku said nothing, he just stood. They're feeling very alone. Hinata, I'm sorry, I should have been here sooner, Naruto said, berating himself. Hinata put a hand on his cheek. It's alright Naruto-kun, she said. She used what was left of her strength to pull his head down. Hinata and Naruto kissed passionately. Hinata fell unconscious soon after their kiss was finished. Naruto panicked at first, but saw she was breathing. Hinata was just tired and needed some rest. The mist, for the most part, dispersed. The remaining demon brother surrendered, seeing as both Zabuza and Haku were defeated. Everyone turned when they heard someone clapping. What a disappointment, after all that you couldn't even finish the job, Gato stated. Gato had 100 thugs behind him looking rather bloodthirsty. Well Kakashi, it seems I'm out of a job, how about we call a truce? Zabuza asked. I have no reason to go after Tazuna anymore. That sounds reasonable to me. Kakashi signaled his dogs to let go of Zabuza. The two, Jounin-class ninja, readied themselves for a good old-fashioned beat-down. Kakashi picked up Zabuza's sword and threw it to him. Zabuza caught the sword and placed it on his back. So Zabuza, what do you have in mind for these guys? I was thinking water dragon. Zabuza began a long series of hand signs. Kakashi began his own series of hand signs, water release, water dragon jutsu. Zabuza exclaimed. A massive water dragon appeared from the right side of the bridge. The water dragon towered over Gato's thugs. Kakashi finished his own hand signs, lightning release, bolt. Kakashi exclaimed. A large bolt formed in Kakashi's hand made out of lightning chakra. Kakashi threw the large bolt of lightning elemental chakra into the massive water dragon. The now lightning-empowered water dragon slammed into the bridge, killing a majority of Gato's thugs and taking them over the edge of the bridge. The remaining thugs ran for the boat at the end of the bridge. Kakashi appeared behind Gato. He grabbed him by the collar of his shirt and dragged him over to everyone else. Now Gato, it's time to write some checks, Kakashi said in a serious tone. Never, Gato replied. Zabuza, he's all yours, Kakashi said. Alright, I'll do it. Gato shouted. Everyone from Tazuna's town finally arrived at the bridge to see the damage caused by the fighting. They held pitchforks and other various sharp objects. The ninja walked off the bridge back to Tazuna's house. They had a lot to talk about. The villagers cheered for their heroes as they left the bridge. In Konoha, Hiruzen was doing paperwork when a chill ran down his spine. Why do I get the feeling when Naruto returns I'll have a lot of paperwork to deal with? Hiruzen sighed and went back to looking over the daily reports. Hiruzen hadn't heard anything from Kakashi or teammate in days now, and he was getting worried. At Tazuna's house, Naruto just finished telling his teammates of his little secret. I see, that's why. Everyone in the village stares at you like that, Shino stated. Naruto-kun, were you afraid we would hate you for something you had no control over? Hinata asked. Yeah, it seemed like a major trend back in the village, Naruto replied. Well, now that the explanation is over, let's go to town and partake in the party, Kakashi said, as he popped his head into the room. What? We don't have anything to wear other than our ninja clothes, Hinata said. No matter, I don't think anyone will mind, Kakashi said. The three genin got up to go with Kakashi and Kurenai to the party in town. The five of them arrived in town to see lights strung up along the buildings. The town was filled with life. People were drinking and laughing. It was completely different from when they had arrived. Tazuna and his family greeted them. So you all decided to join in the festivities? Tazuna said, with a bottle in hand. Yeah, although I wasn't sure everyone was up for it, Kakashi replied. Haku came walking up to the group of leaf shinobi. Are we still friends? Haku asked Naruto. Naruto sighed, I've never really been able to hold a grudge, plus you were only doing your job, Naruto said, as he held up his hand. Naruto and Haku shook hands. Actually, boy, his job was to kill his opponent, not just hit a few pressure points to knock them out, Zabuza said, as he came out of the crowd. Even the demon of the mist decided to join the party, Kakashi stated. So what are your plans now? Not sure, not much work out there for a missing ninja who turns on their own employers. Well, why don't you come with us? I'm sure the old man could use you for something, Naruto said. I turned on the Mizukage. Do you really think he would even consider such a thing? Zabuza asked. If I ask him, he would probably consider it. Naruto replied. What, are you scared? Naruto asked, taunting the missing ninja. Zabuza grumbled, but he took what the young genin said as a challenge. Alright boy, we will see what happens, but I doubt he will consider it at all. Naruto got an idea, he grinned wickedly. Alright, if he allows you to become ninja of the village, you have to train me. Zabuza smirked, sounds interesting, but if he doesn't, I get that sword of yours. Alright, right, it's a deal then. I win, you train me, you win, you get my sword. The two of them shook hands to seal the deal. Well, now that you two are friends, can we move on to the party? Kakashi said. Kurenai and Kakashi walked off and disappeared into the crowd. Haku was asking Shino about his village. They walked off in another direction. Zabuza left to go find a bar to get a drink. Naruto and Hinata both smiled at one another. They walked off into the crowd as well. All the ninja, including Zabuza and his men, were thanked for all their help. The people of Wave had taken all of Gato's wealth. They sentenced him to a lifetime hard labor somewhere in the land of waves. The party had raged on for hours. And the sun had finally set. It was now around midnight and the party didn't seem like it was going to stop until sunrise. Kakashi was in a bar with Zabuza having a drinking contest while Kurenai, Shino, Haku, and the demon brothers watched. The group was a bit disgusted by how much alcohol they had already consumed. And they didn't look like they were stopping anytime soon either. The two were about to take another shot when they both stopped midway. Come out already, Kakashi said. 4ANBU appeared behind Kakashi. Apologies, Hokage-sama was getting a little worried, the leader of the Umbu squad said. Understandable, considering who's on Kurenai's team, Kakashi replied. Now if you could kindly step back, me and Zabuza here aren't finished with our contest, but he's a missing ninja, another Umbu shouted. I may be a bit drunk, but I can still see clearly. Now leave and tell the Hokage we will return once the bridge is completed, Kakashi said in a stern tone. The lead Umbu bowed. Of course, sir. The four Umbu disappeared. Now where were we? With Naruto and Hinata had slipped away from the party. They found themselves sitting on top of the tallest building in town watching everything. Hinata was sitting in Naruto's lap. She sighed happily, as she draped her arms around Naruto's neck. Hinata looked up at Naruto and saw the serious expression on his face. "What's wrong, Naruto-kun?" Naruto remained silent for a minute. "I thought I lost you when I saw you lying on the ground like that." Hinata smiled, and kissed Naruto on the cheek. "Everything worked out in the end, right?" Naruto smiled and hugged her. "Yeah, I guess you're right." It was now 3 a.m. and the party was finally starting to die down. Naruto picked Hinata up bridal style and took off to Tazuna's house. Naruto saw Kakashi and Zabuza being helped out of the bar. It seemed they were not sober enough to walk on their own. Naruto dropped down in front of them holding Hinata. "Well, it seems you two drank a lot," Naruto stated. "Yeah, too bad the bar ran out of drinks before one of us passed out," Zabuza managed to say without slurring his words. Kurenai's face turned red when Kakashi grabbed her butt. She glared at him. He only gave her a drunken eye smile. "I think these two need to get some sleep," she managed to say. Kurenai was embarrassed. He could have at least waited till we were alone, she thought. They left the party as a group headed for Tazuna's place to put the two drunks to bed, and to get some rest themselves. 2 weeks had passed since the Land of Waves was liberated. The bridge was finished in part thanks to Naruto's shadow clones. Naruto would leave some shadow clones at the bridge while he ran off for 14 hours a day to train somewhere in the forest. Hinata would have to drag an unconscious Naruto back to the house so he could get some sleep. Hinata was worried about Naruto. He threw himself into his training and didn't look back. She knew he trained himself into the ground, but this was different. No one else seemed to think Naruto's behavior was a little odd. Hinata sighed. She was sitting up in a tree watching Naruto train with his shadow clones again. They were set to leave in an hour and Naruto was just getting some last-minute training. "Naruto-kun, it's time to go," Hinata said, jumping down from the tree. "Oh right. Coming." Naruto walked over to Hinata and hugged her. "Is something wrong, Hinata-chan?" "I'm worried. You've been acting weird since the construction of the bridge started again." "This is my normal training schedule, though." "That's not what I mean." Naruto sighed and tightened his hug. "I'm just not ready to go back to the village yet. I mean, I can't be with you all the time, or hold you like I am now." "I know, but maybe we can get another C-ranked mission soon," Hinata said, trying to get Naruto to smile, and it seemed to work. Naruto smiled at Hinata's suggestion. "You're right. Plus we can always go to Myobokuzen every once in a while." Hinata smiled and nodded. "Right," she said happily. They walked off towards the bridge to meet with everyone. Appearing out of the forest next to the bridge, Hinata had her arms wrapped around Naruto's arm as they walked. She smiled happily, as they walked up to everyone. "So, Zabuza, not going to chicken out, are you?" Naruto asked, with a big grin on his face. "Ha! And missed the chance to get your sword?" "Not likely." Zabuza replied. "Well, Tazuna, this is goodbye for now," Kakashi said. Tazuna smiled and nodded. "Indeed. Thank you all for everything." The Leaf Ninja nodded. They exchanged a few more goodbyes and pleasantries before they took to the trees. "So, Dad, what should we call the bridge?" Tsunami asked. "How about the Great Naruto Bridge?" After the person who was the first to suggest to his comrades that they see the mission through to the end, he stated. "I like it." Inari replied. At Konoha the gate guards were bored again. Nothing exciting ever happened at this post, but it was an easy gig and paid decent. The two gate guards saw Kakashi Hatake and Team 8 walking up to the gate. They saw 4 others with them but couldn't make out who they were at first. The guards shot up from their chairs when they realized it was Zabuza Momochi and the Demon Brothers walking with Kakashi Hatake and Team 8. The guards said nothing as the group passed them. "Well, it seems the guards were surprised to see me," Zabuza said. Well, it's not every day you see a criminal of your reputation walking through the Leaf Village gates, Kakashi replied. I suppose that's true. So where to first? Zabuza asked. Well, I guess we have to see the old man first, Naruto replied. Old man? What old man? Zabuza asked. He means the Hokage, Kurenai replied. He calls the third Hokage, a man known as God of Shinobi, old man? Zabuza asked in disbelief. That's right, Bandage Man. Naruto shot back. This is going to be a long day. Kakashi mumbled. And just as Kakashi finished his mumbling, Team 7 came around the corner. Well, if it isn't Kakashi-senpai and... Ebisu stopped talking when he saw Zabuza and the Demon Brothers. What's wrong? Sakura asked. She, Sasuke, and Kiba had just turned the corner to see what was wrong. That tall man standing next to your sensei is Zabuza Momochi. He's extremely dangerous. Ebisu replied. Doesn't look so tough to me, Sasuke stated. Yeah, what's so special about him? Kiba asked, agreeing with Sasuke. Zabuza disappeared from right in front of them, and reappeared right behind Sasuke and Kiba. I could have killed you just now, if I had wanted to, he said in a dark tone. Shivers ran down both their spines. They spun around with kunai ready, but he was already gone and right beside Kakashi again. Umbu appeared around the group. Kakashi said nothing, he just waved them off and they disappeared. Zabuza, your fun can wait. We have things to do, Kakashi stated. You're a real killjoy, you know that? Zabuza replied. So I've been told, the copy ninja replied. The group left for the Hokage's office. Sasuke and Kiba were still a bit shaken by Zabuza. They arrived at the Hokage tower. As they walked in, Umbu throughout the building made their presence known. The group arrived at the door to the Hokage's office. Zabuza left his sword at the secretary's desk. They walked into the third Hokage's office to see him sitting in his chair waiting, while Jiraiya was sitting in the windowsill. Well, when I heard Zabuza and the Demon Brothers were with you, Kakashi, I was a bit shocked, Hiruzen said. Yeah, things just kind of happened, Kakashi replied. So are you turning yourselves in? Jiraiya asked. No, Zabuza said, speaking for his men. Really? What are you here for then? Hiruzen asked. I'm here to make a request, Zabuza replied. Jiraiya and Hiruzen both cocked an eyebrow. What would this request be? Hiruzen asked. I, and my associates would like to become ninja of this village, Zabuza said hesitantly. That is certainly an interesting request, Hiruzen replied. Why would I even consider such a request? Oh, come on, old man, give him a shot, Naruto said, causing Hiruzen and Jiraiya to look at him. Naruto, do you know what this man has done in the past? I've heard all about it, yes. You were the one to suggest this, weren't you, Naruto? Well, actually, yes. I should have known, Hiruzen sighed and rubbed his temples. Alright, I'll give you one chance. For the first month, Umbu will watch you constantly and you will submit to an interrogation by Ibiki. If you give me any reason at all to think you're plotting some type of takeover, I'll send you to the Mizukage in chains. Hiruzen had a serious expression on his face. Wait, just because that child asked you, you're going to allow it? Zabuza asked in disbelief. Ha, now you have. To train me. Naruto shouted. Hiruzen cocked an eyebrow. Kakashi sat down on the edge of the windowsill. Zabuza and Naruto made a bet. If you allowed Zabuza to become a ninja of the village, he would train Naruto. If Zabuza won the bet, he gets Naruto's sword. And I won. Hiruzen and Jiraiya finally noticed the sword on Naruto's back. They both glared at Kakashi. Naruto, you and your team can leave now. Zabuza, his men, Kakashi, and I have much to discuss, Hiruzen said with a smile. Alright old man, see you around. Naruto exclaimed, with a big smile on his face. Team 8 walked out of the room leaving Kakashi, Zabuza, and his men in the room with Hiruzen and Jiraiya. Team 8 had just left the Hokage tower when Fukasaku appeared in front of them. Oh, hey, Fukasaku Jishin. What brings you here? Naruto asked. Naruto, your request has been completed and is ready whenever you are, just summon Gamakichi when you're ready, Fukasaku stated. Thanks, Naruto replied, of course, just try to avoid Gamabunta. He's still a bit upset about the last prank you pulled, Fukasaku said, then disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto couldn't help but smile, he loved to pull pranks. What was all that about, Naruto? Kurenai asked. Sorry, can't tell you, he replied with a big foxy grin. I should go and inform my father I'm home, Hinata said. Yes, and I should inform my family as well, Shino stated. The two of them headed off in the direction of their respective homes. Naruto frowned, he walked off in the direction of his apartment leaving Kurenai standing there. Word in the village quickly spread that Zabuza Momochi, demon of the mist, was in the village. And rumor of Naruto being the one to convince the Hokage to allow Zabuza and his cohorts to become ninja of the village spread equally fast. Aburame resident Shino arrived at the Aburame clan estate. He saw his father Shibi tending to the various bug colonies. Shibi looked over his shoulder to see his son walking over. Ah, my son, how was your mission? It went quite well, Shino replied. Good, how are you getting along with your teammates? Quite well. Naruto and Hinata are quite reliable. Excellent. Has Naruto told you anything special about himself? Shino nodded. He has. I don't understand why people hate him for something out of his control. Shibi stopped what he was working on. That is just merely how people are. Some just can't let go of the past, I suppose. Shino adjusted his glasses. Do you hate him? No. It's as you said. How can someone hate the boy for something he had no control over? Shibi remembered something. Oh, shortly before you arrived a messenger from the Hokage informed me that your mission was changed from a C-ranked mission to A-ranked. That was to be expected considering what happened. Shibi looked at his son, something seemed to be troubling him. You seem troubled, what is the problem? There is something I don't understand about Naruto. And that would be? He always seems so happy about everything. I just don't understand this. The boy has been mistreated for the majority of his life. He most likely hides his pain behind that mask. One of Shibi's bugs returned to inform him his wife was done preparing a late lunch. It seems your mother had prepared a late lunch. We shouldn't keep her waiting. The two of them walked into the house. Hyuga Estate. Hinata had just arrived at her home, she wasn't very happy to come back to this place. Hinata was greeted by the two branch members who normally guarded the front gate. They congratulated her on her successful mission. She was glad to see the branch family cared even if it was just a little. Before she walked by they informed her of the change in mission rank. Hinata couldn't help but smile, she bowed and walked off into the house. Hinata walked through the halls of the Hyuga estate. Her destination was her father's office to inform him she was home. Hinata passed by the dojo to see her cousin training again. Niji seemed to always be in the dojo these days, when not on missions or with his team. Hinata stopped in front of her father's office, she was hesitant to enter. Hinata knocked on the door once then slid it to the side and walked in. Hello father, I've returned from my mission, Hinata said as she bowed. Yes, I've already received a full report on your mission and the fact that the ranking was changed, Hayashi replied. His tone was neutral. Hinata looked down. He could have at least said welcome home. I'll be going then, I'm sure Kurenai-sensei has some training for us, Hinata bowed and walked out of the room. Hayashi sighed, and opened a drawer pulling out a picture. The picture contained his wife, Hinata, and himself. The picture was one of the only times he really smiled. With Naruto was sitting in his apartment, he was buffing the sheath of his sword. Naruto sighed, he was enjoying his time in the wave country. When he had gotten back to his apartment, a messenger from the Hokage had informed him of the rank change for the mission that made him a bit happy. Naruto had just finished buffing the sheath of his katana when he heard a knock on the door. Wonder who that could be, he thought, as he walked to his front door. Naruto opened the door to see Jiraiya. "Hey pervy sage. What's up?" Naruto asked. "Can we discuss this inside?" Jiraiya asked. "Oh, yeah sure," Naruto motioned for him to come in. "So, pervy sage, what brings you here?" Naruto asked. "Well, Kakashi said you released some of your tenant's energy and..." Naruto cut Jiraiya off. "And you want to make sure nothing is wrong with the seal, right?" Naruto said, then, after Jiraiya nodded, continued, "Fine, let's just get this over with. I have training to do." Naruto lifted up his shirt and focused some of his chakra, revealing the seal. Jiraiya did a quick check, but there was nothing wrong or out of place with the seal. "So anything wrong with the seal?" Naruto asked in a bored tone. "Nope. Nothing's wrong. Everything seems to be in order," Jiraiya replied. He sat down in a chair, then asked, "So how was the trip to the wave?" "It was great. I wish it would have lasted longer, to be honest," Naruto said in a happy tone. "So you could spend more time with a certain someone, am I right?" Jiraiya said, trying to tease Naruto. Naruto blushed slightly. "Yeah, I suppose that's part of the reason." "So where did you get the sword?" he asked. "Oh, Kakashi gave it to me, he said it was an early birthday present." "Yeah. 2 years too early." Jiraiya thought, slightly annoyed, then replied, "Well, that was nice of him. So did he teach you how to use it?" "Yeah." "Excellent, did he tell you who the previous owner of the sword was?" "Nope, not that I can remember, I never asked about it." "Why?" Naruto asked. "No reason, I guess. I heard you had made a request to Fukasaku." Jiraiya had a big grin on his face. Naruto blushed slightly as he thought about it. "Yeah, I asked him if it was alright to bring Hinata-chan on a date to Myobokuzen." "Well, that is definitely an interesting request and an odd use for the reverse summoning jutsu," Jiraiya replied. He took out a scroll from jacket and threw it to Naruto. "What is this?" Naruto asked as he caught it. "Well, some of it is your pay from the wave mission, and the rest is your birthday money," Jiraiya said, then stood up to leave. "Oh, that money may be of great use one day. You might want to save it for when you're older." Jiraiya shunshined from the room. Naruto was rather confused. He didn't understand what Jiraiya meant. Naruto shrugged, and decided to open the scroll and see how much it was. Naruto opened the scroll and in a puff of smoke, a large sum of money lay all over the floor. There must be 2 million ryo. Naruto thought excitedly. He quickly gathered it from the floor and sealed it back within the scroll. Naruto moved his bed to a little and popped up a floorboard. He pulled out a small chest. The chest was one of his birthday presents. At the time he didn't know who had given it to him at the time. He knew now it had been Hinata who had given him the chest. He smiled and put the scroll in the chest and quickly put the floorboard back on and moved the bed back. Naruto looked around his room. It felt so empty. He grabbed his sword and jumped through one of the windows in his apartment. Naruto found himself on top of the Hokage monument. He sat on the 4th Hokage's head. He rather liked it up here. It was calm and a nice breeze was blowing. The Hokage Tower, "Ah, good you're all here, would like formally introduce some new ninja to this village," Hiruzen stated. He was addressing the Umbu captains and his most experienced jounin that he had called into the room. "Would you please enter the room?" Hiruzen called out. Zabuza Momochi, Haku, Gozu, and Meizu entered the room. They all worse. Leaf Village vests and headbands. One of the Jounin yelled in protest. You can't be serious. He's a wanted criminal. How could you allow this? The man yelled. Hold your tongue, child. I've already had them evaluated by Ibiki and he doesn't see any problem with it either. Hiruzen said in an irritated tone. The Jounin seemed to shrink into the background. Kakashi walked up to them. So how was the interrogation? Well, it was interesting, I have to admit, Zabuza replied. Kurenai walked up next to Kakashi and grabbed his arm. So Haku, how is the village so far? She asked. Well, I didn't get to see much of it yet, but I rather like it here. Haku had a small smile on his face. Everyone watched in amazement as Kurenai and Kakashi causally talked with the rogue mist ninja now turned leaf shinobi. You know, Kakashi, we still need to finish that drinking contest of ours, Zabuza stated. You could see the grin through the combat wraps on his face. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow. That wasn't in your report, Kakashi. Well, I really didn't see a point in adding that part since the mission at the time was over. Well, for the most part, he replied. I see, now introductions and such are over. You are all dismissed and can go back to your regular duties, Hiruzen announced. At Training Ground 3, Naruto was doing his normal training. He was currently sparring with his shadow clones. Naruto heard someone come through the bushes. He quickly dispelled the clones. He waited to see who it was before continuing. Hinata popped out of the woods. Naruto couldn't help but smile. Naruto noticed the depressed look on Hinata's face. He walked over and hugged her, figuring she needed and deserved it. What's wrong, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked. Hinata buried her face into his shirt. I just wish my father would have said, "Welcome home," or "a nice job," or something like that when I arrived home today. Naruto was a little confused about what Hinata was talking about. What do you mean? Hinata's grip around him tightened. My father is a heartless man. He never encourages me to do better. He only berates me when I don't live up to his expectations. When I got home I was hoping he would at least say, "Welcome home," when I went to see him. Hinata started to cry into Naruto's shirt. Instead he greets me like anyone else and isn't even surprised with the completion of our mission. Naruto sighed. He wasn't sure what to say. He didn't exactly have any experience when it came to family. Naruto was a little angry though. A father was supposed to encourage their children to do better and support them, right? Do you want to go to Myobokuzen tonight since Fukasaku Jishin said my request was finished? Hinata only nodded into his shirt as her reply. With Haku was walking down the street. He had been allowed to roam the village seeing as he had no criminal record other than being with Zabuza. Haku had left his ninja vest and headband at the apartment Zabuza had purchased for him. He was walking through the streets of the village absent-mindedly, just looking around, not really going in any particular direction. He suddenly bumped into a blonde-haired girl carrying a rose bush. She began to fall over, but he caught her and the rose bush before they hit the ground. I'm sorry, I should have been watching where I was going, Haku said apologetically. The girl blushed. The boy that had caught her was, for the lack of a better word, beautiful. No problem, she replied. Haku let go of her and held the rose bush. Would you like some help with this? He finally noticed the leaf headband on her. The girl smiled and nodded. Help from a cute-looking boy? Of course, she thought. They walked along the streets of Konoha for a time without speaking. What's your name? The girl asked. My name is Haku. And yours would be? I'm Ino Yamanaka, she replied. She was sporting a light pink blush. Well, it's nice to meet you, Ino, Haku replied. He found her rather cute. Likewise, she said back. They walked down the street until they arrived at her mom's flower shop. Ino directed Haku inside the shop because the rose bush was rather large and it was hard to see around. Put it down here, Ino instructed. Haku looked around. there were so many flowering plants he rather liked it in here. Inoichi walked into the room to see Haku standing next to his daughter. He found the proximity to his daughter unacceptable. "Excuse me, but would you step away from my daughter?" Ino raised an eyebrow. She didn't understand what was wrong with his father. He had never asked any boy to step away from her. Although Haku complied and moved away. "What's wrong, Dad?" "Ino, I think your mom is looking for you." Ino understood her father didn't want her in the room right now and quickly left. "What are you doing with my daughter?" "What do you mean?" he asked. "I was only helping Ino bring the rose bush here." Inoichi was good at reading people, and from what he could read from Haku's body language and tone of voice, he was telling the truth. "I see." Ino came back into the room. "Hey Haku, my mom needs a few more things done. Mind helping me?" "Sure, I'll help," he replied. Haku and Ino walked out of the flower shop. Her father was a bit concerned about Haku trying anything with his daughter. At Kurenai's house, Kurenai was sitting on her couch reading a book when she heard a knock at the door. She closed the book and answered the door. Kakashi was standing in front of her in civilian clothes. "Hey Kurenai-chan, since we're not on duty at the moment, want to walk around town and maybe get a bite to eat?" Kakashi asked. Kurenai smiled. "Sure. Let me go change first." Kurenai came out a few minutes later in day dress. Kakashi held out his arm, she smiled and hooked her arm in his. They walked towards the shopping district of the village. They were walking for 15 minutes before they saw Irika and Anko. Anko was latched onto Irika's arm as they walked down the street looking at various items. Kurenai and Kakashi walked up to them. Well, it looks like Anko finally got a man," Kurenai stated. Anko and Irika turned to see Kakashi and Kurenai standing next to them. Anko and Irika blushed when they noticed who it was. "Why don't we all go out and get something to eat?" Kakashi suggested. "Sure, why not, you up for it, Anko-chan?" Irika asked. "Sure," she replied. With Naruto and Hinata, Naruto had finally gotten Hinata to calm down. Naruto looked up at the sky. The sun would be setting in a few hours. "Hey Hinata-chan, want to head there now?" Hinata looked at Naruto with a small smile on her face. "Sure." Naruto cut his finger, did the appropriate hand seals, and slammed his hand down on the ground. In a burst of smoke, a small orange and black frog appeared. "Yo, Naruto, Gramps said you would be summoning me soon." Gamakichi said. "Who's that, Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked. "Oh, this is Gamakichi," Naruto replied. "Hey Gamakichi, can we do the introductions at Myobokuzen?" "Oh sure, just hold on to her, since she hasn't signed the contract," Gamakichi replied. Naruto smirked and picked her up bridal style. She blushed furiously. Gamakichi disappeared in a cloud of smoke a few seconds later, so did Naruto and Hinata. They appeared in a thick patch of vegetation. Naruto put Hinata down and moved the thick vegetation out of the way for her to get by. Naruto sighed. "Why did you bring us out here?" Naruto asked. "Because Pops is still mad at you from the time you changed his normal bathwater into saltwater." "Oh, I forgot about that one. Now that I think about, he did get pretty mad at me for that," Naruto chuckled. Hinata couldn't help but giggle. They finally got through the thick vegetation. Hinata was amazed the place was so beautiful. "So Hinata, what do you think?" Naruto asked. "I love it. It's so beautiful here," Hinata exclaimed, amazed. "Glad you like it. Gamakichi, could you show her around?" "I have to talk with some of the elders while I'm here," Naruto said, first to Hinata, then Gamakichi. "Oh sure. I'd happy to." Hinata and Gamakichi walked off to look around the area. "So your name's Gamakichi?" Hinata asked. "Yep. What's yours?" "Mine's Hinata Hyuga," she said with a smile on her face. Naruto smiled as he saw Hinata walk off with Gamakichi. Naruto was just staring off into space, when he heard someone yelled his name. "Naruto, you brat! Where are you?" Gamabunta yelled. "And with that I should make my exit," Naruto said, then disappeared in a swirl of leaves. "What was that, Gamakichi?" Hinata asked. "Oh, that's my dad. It seems he knows Naruto is here," Gamakichi answered. "Will Naruto-kun be alright?" Hinata asked. Gamakichi's silence wasn't very reassuring. The ground began to shake and a massive red toad with a rather nasty-looking scar appeared before them. "Where is he, Gamakichi?" Gamabunta roared. "Don't. No, Pops. He ran off when you started yelling," Gamakichi answered. "That brat!" Gamabunta shouted, then finally noticed Hinata standing next to Gamakichi, and asked, "Oh, and who might this be?" "Oh, this is Hinata, Naruto's girlfriend." Hinata blushed at Gamakichi's comment. "My name's Hinata Hyuga. Pleased to meet you," she said softly, bowing her head politely. "Well, at least some people have manners, unlike that brat," Gamabunta said. "With Haku and Ino, thanks for helping me with the shopping my mom needed," Ino said, blushed slightly when Haku smiled, then asked, "If you're not busy later in the week, do you mind stopping by?" "I would like that," Haku replied. Ino waved goodbye as Haku walked away. "So Haku, this was where you've been," Zabuza said, appearing next to him. "Well, I wanted to look around the village while I had the chance, Zabuza-sama," Haku replied. "I see. Anyhow, Gozu and Meizu are waiting," Zabuza said. Zabuza walked off with Haku following closely behind. "In a sushi bar, so that's how you two started going out," Kakashi said with a slight chuckle. "Oh, come on, Kakashi. Don't laugh," Irika said. Enko, for once, didn't have a comeback for what Kakashi was saying. She was just a tad bit embarrassed. "So I hear your mission was bumped up to an A rank, Kurenai," Enko said as she ate another piece of sushi. "Yeah, I suppose it will look good on my team's record," she replied. "So how well did my old students do?" Irika asked. "Hinata and Shino are progressing quite well, and did well under pressure, but Naruto's growth is a bit scary, to be honest," Kakashi said casually as he took a sip of his drink. The three others sitting at the table just looked at him. Kakashi was never one to praise people. "Well, what do you think Naruto is doing right now?" Irika asked. "He's probably going through his daily 14-hour training routine, or at least as much of it as he can get in," Kurenai replied. "At Myobokuzen, I'm sorry, Gamabunta. It won't happen again," Naruto cried out as he ran from the large pissed-off toad. "That's what you said last time, when you changed my sake out for salt water," the giant toad roared. "Oh, come on. You've gotta admit that was funny," Naruto shouted, as he dodged Gamabunta's giant blade. "Is Naruto-kun going to be alright?" Hinata asked. She and Gamakichi were sitting a good distance from the two. "Yeah, he'll be just fine, as long as he doesn't get hit," Gamakichi mumbled the last part. "What's going on?" Fukasaku asked. "Hey Gramps, might want to stop Pops before he goes overboard and kills Naruto," Gamakichi suggested. Fukasaku sighed, he knew this was going to happen. "Yeah, I guess I best stop him before he loses all his self-control." Fukasaku appeared on Gamabunta's head. Gamabunta realized who had just landed on him and stopped immediately. "Gamabunta, would you stop the childish act? Naruto asked me for a request to bring a certain someone here, and I'm sure you already met her. Naruto doesn't have a lot of time right now, and probably can't do this often. So could you please stop acting like a child, at least for now?" the old toad asked. Gamabunta grumbled a bit. "Fine. As long as that brat buys me sake for all the trouble later." Fukasaku looked over at Naruto, who nodded in agreement. Good, now that that's settled, Naruto, I believe that girl Hinata is waiting for you, Fukasaku said. Naruto nodded and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. He appeared next to Hinata and held out his arm. Hinata smiled and took his arm, and the two walked away. Naruto and Hinata were walking around Myobokuzen looking at the different sights. Hinata thought it was a wonderful place. She didn't want to live here, but it was a nice place to be if you wanted to get away from it all. The two stopped in front of a waterfall. This is wonderful, Naruto-kun, Hinata said happily. Naruto smiled. Want to go see the big statues now? He asked. Hinata smiled and nodded happily. Are they really big? She asked. They're all sorts of different sizes. Naruto replied enthusiastically. Hinata rested her head on Naruto's shoulder as they walked to the stone statues. Hinata was amazed. The statues ranged in size from half her size to at least 50 times her size. This is amazing, Naruto-kun. Glad you like it, Hinata-chan. They spent 15 minutes looking at the statues. After that they walked around and talked with some of the Toad residents. Naruto-kun seems happier here than back at the village, Hinata thought. You hungry, Hinata-chan? No, her stomach growled a little. Hinata's face turned red, she was so embarrassed. Naruto smiled. Well, let's get something to eat then. The two were walking to Fukasaku's residence when Naruto spotted Gamakichi with a frog around his size but pink in color. Hey Gamakichi, who's your friend? Hey Naruto, this is Mayu, Gamakichi replied. A grin formed on Naruto's face. She your girlfriend? Gamakichi began to choke a little bit and Mayu seemed to do something similar. Naruto and Hinata smiled. It seemed they didn't have that kind of relationship, at least not yet. Why don't you two join us? We were about to go get something to eat at Fukasaku's place, Naruto said. Well Mayu, how about it? Sure, she replied, stuttering a bit. The small pink female frog reminded Naruto of Hinata in a way. As they walked the rest of the way to Fukasaku's, the four of them talked about Naruto and Hinata's village. They arrived to see Fukasaku sitting outside the front of his house waiting for them. Ah, I was wondering when you and Hinata were going to get hungry. Especially after your little incident with Gamabunta. Naruto laughed a bit. Yeah, that was a bit scary. Fukasaku noticed Gamakichi and Mayu. Oh Gamakichi, Mayu, what are you doing here? Well, Naruto ran into us, and asked us if we wanted to tag along, Gamakichi replied. I see, well come in, Ma was just finishing the food. I hope you made some normal food. I don't think Hinata-chan would enjoy bugs. Hinata looked a little worried when Naruto mentioned eating bugs. Fukasaku laughed. Ma is in the back preparing some ramen. We figured Hinata wouldn't want to eat what we do all the time. Great. Let's head inside then. Naruto said. They all filed into the small house. They sat at a small rectangular table, Hinata and Naruto on one side. Gamakichi, Mayu on the other. While Fukasaku sat at the head of the table. Shima came out of the kitchen to greet everyone. The food will be ready shortly, Naruto. She noticed Gamakichi and Mayu sitting on one side of the table. Oh Gamakichi, Mayu, I didn't know you were coming over. Let me go get you two something. She disappeared back into the kitchen. Who was that, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Oh, that was Shima, Fukasaku Jishin's wife, he replied. So Hinata, tell us a little about yourself, Fukasaku stated. She described herself and her family. It was a general understanding that she didn't really like her family that much from what she said about them. Hinata started to talk about her relationship with Naruto. So you two are sneaking around? Gamakichi asked. Yeah, we knew her family would never allow it, Naruto replied. I think that's so romantic. Mayu squealed. Shima came into the room and placed the food on the table. Enjoy, she had a smile on her face. Hinata started to eat the ramen Shima had cooked. She thought it was fantastic. Hinata looked over at Naruto and giggled. She found the way he ate was amusing. As they ate they talked about various things like Naruto's pranks or some of the missions Naruto and Hinata went on. After dinner Naruto and Hinata sat outside. Hinata sat all cuddled up against Naruto. "Thanks for bringing me here, Naruto-kun." Naruto smiled. "Anything for you, Hinata-chan." Naruto sighed as he remembered how long they had been at Myobokuzen. "Sorry Hinata-chan, but we have to get going now." "Really? Already?" she pouted. "Yep." Naruto looked at Hinata. "You know you would look really good with long hair." Hinata blushed. "You think so?" Naruto smiled and picked Hinata up bridal style, and walked into Fukasaku's. "Leaving Naruto?" he asked. "Yeah, no one knows we left and if we stay much longer they might start to wonder where we've gone to." "I see your point." Fukasaku made a few hand signs and sent them back to the village. Naruto and Hinata appeared in one of the training grounds that no one normally used. Naruto set Hinata down on the ground. "Thank you again, Naruto-kun." Hinata kissed him on the cheek and took off for her home. Naruto smiled and left for his apartment. A few days later it had been a few days since Team 8 returned to Konoha. They had done a few D-ranked missions since their return. Naruto complained about the lack of any kind of excitement in the missions. Naruto was walking around the streets of the village since the team decided not to do any D-rank missions today. Naruto thought it was great when Shino called them boring. Naruto stopped when he thought something was following him. He looked back to find a rectangular-looking rock with eye holes in it. "That is the worst disguise I've ever seen," he thought. "Konohamaru, that is the worst disguise I've ever seen considering there is no such thing as a rectangular rock." The rock exploded in a cloud of smoke. 3 young academy students were on the ground coughing, because there was too much smoke. "Hey boss!" Konohamaru yelled. "What do you want today, Konohamaru?" Naruto asked. "Moegi, udon, and I want you to teach us something." Naruto scratched his head as he thought. "Alright, but only if you can catch me." Naruto disappeared in a swirl of leaves. He reappeared next to the edge of a fence. He proceeded to walk behind it. "Get him!" Konohamaru yelled. They ran down the street and turned the fence corner. They smashed into Sakura. "Hey, watch where you're going," he yelled. "What? Is that all you can say when you smash into someone?" Sakura yelled back. "You got a big forehead." Konohamaru shouted. Sakura sent all 3 children death glares. "Run guys!" They ran down the street as fast as they could. Konohamaru looked back to see Sakura catching up. He suddenly slammed into someone. He looked up to see a man with face paint. He kind of looked like a clown. Next to the man was a blonde-haired girl with a giant fan. The man with face paint picked Konohamaru up by his shirt. "That hurt you, brat." Naruto sat on a building watching to see how it would all turn out. "Sand ninja," he thought. "It's my fault I was chasing them, could you let them go?" Sakura pleaded. "No. I think I'll have some fun with him." "Stop it, Kankuro, you know we can't do this here. No one will know Temari, at least not for a while." Kankuro replied darkly. Naruto jumped off the building and landed on the fence. "Boss!" Konohamaru cried. "Leaf Genin?" Kankuro thought. "If you could let go of my friend there go, I won't have to hurt you," Naruto said. Kankuro raised his fist to punch Konohamaru when a stone came out of the tree and hit Kankuro in the head. Kankuro released Konohamaru. "Well, Sasuke, I was wondering when you were going to do something," Naruto stated. "Another stupid Leaf Genin brat?" Kankuro thought. Kankuro grew angry. "I really hate show-offs," Kankuro said. He pulled off the wrapped bundle on his back. That's going too far, Kankuro. You can't use that here. Temari yelled, yeah, clown boy, seeing as your other team member seems to be getting rather angry with you, Naruto said. He pointed up into the tree Sasuke was sitting in. On the other side of tree was a red-haired boy standing upside down on one of the tree branches. I didn't even sense he was there, Sasuke thought. Kankuro, you're an embarrassment. They started at Gaara, Kankuro said. He pointed to the leaf. Village residents. Shut up, Kankuro, or I'll kill you now, Gaara said in a calm, threatening tone. Gaara disappeared from the tree limb in a swirl of sand and appeared in between Kankuro and Temari. We're leaving. Of course, Gaara, the two replied in unison. Gaara stopped and looked at Sasuke. What's your name? Sasuke Uchiha. Mine's Gaara of the desert. Gaara and his team walked away. Why am I always left out? Naruto whined. Because you're an idiot, that's why, Sasuke replied. Laugh it up, team. Wait till I kick your ass. Naruto disappeared in a swirl of leaves before Sasuke could retort. He knows the Shunshin. Sasuke thought. In the Hokage Tower, considering who is here, you should all know why I have called you, Hiruzen announced, to the Jounin and Chunin in the room. The Jounin and Chunin nodded, they knew why they were there. Would the three new Jounin team leaders please step forward? Asuma, Kurenai and Kakashi all stepped forward. So do any of you think your teams are ready for the Chunin exams? He asked. Kurenai was the first to step forward and speak. I, Kurenai Yuhi, would like to nominate Team 8, Hinata Hyuga, Naruto Uzumaki, and Shino Aburame to take part in the exams. I thought you would, considering they have a few D-ranked missions along with a single A rank. The wave mission being bumped up to A rank wasn't widely known, only a few people knew about it. Most of the ninja in the room didn't know that detail. It was unheard of for a Genin team to complete a A-ranked mission even if it was a C-ranked to begin with. Kakashi waited for people to get over their shock before speaking. I, Kakashi Hatake, nominate Team 7, Sasuke Uchiha, Kiba Inuzuka, and Sakura Haruno for the Chunin exams. Do you really think they're ready? Hiruzen asked. I do. Ebisu did an outstanding job training them while I was preoccupied in Wave. And since then I've been teaching them, he replied. Although they are a bit lazy when it comes to training, he thought. Very well, Asuma, what about your team? Well, I wasn't expecting the other two teams to be ready as well. But, yeah, I also nominate Team 10 Ino Yamanaka, Chuji Akimichi, and Shikamaru Nara for the Chunin exams. All three new Genin teams. I see. Well, we did have a good graduating class this year. Hiruzen stated as he gave the senseis their forums to hand out to their teams. The exams will start in 5 days. Teams from various villages have already started to arrive. That is all for now. Return to your teams and inform them. Hiruzen went back to his paperwork as the Jounin and Chunin filed out of the room. With Naruto was waiting in Training Ground 7 for his team. He was sitting on one of the training posts playing around with his sword. He sheathed his sword as he saw Hinata and Shino come through the tree line. Hey guys. Naruto looked around. He didn't see Kurenai. Where's Kurenai-sensei? We thought she would be here already, Hinata replied. Indeed, Shino added. Either of you got a clue why we're here? Naruto asked. No, Shino replied. Hinata shook her head, and Naruto grumbled a bit. Hinata giggled at Naruto's antics. Well, if it isn't the Dobe and his team. Naruto turned around to see Sasuke, Kiba, and Sakura coming out of the trees. Well, if it isn't team. Naruto shot back. What are you guys doing here anyhow? Well, Kakashi-sensei told us to meet him here, Sakura replied. Naruto sighed. He hoped he wouldn't be waiting too long for Kurenai to arrive. 30 minutes had passed and neither sensei had arrived yet. What is taking her so long? Naruto groaned. At least it's only the first time. We normally wait 2 hours for Kakashi to get here, Sasuke said. Yeah, one day he was 3 hours late. He normally gives us a really bad excuse like he was lost on the road of life. Kiba stated. Or a black cat crossed his path, Sakura said. He was always on time when it came to our training session back at the Wave Country, Naruto thought. Naruto sighed. It would have more bearable if Team 7 wasn't here with them. Naruto hated Sasuke's constant brooding look. The kid need an attitude adjustment. An hour and a half passed since the two teams arrived at Training Ground 7. Their sensei had still yet to arrive. Most of both teams had fallen asleep waiting at the training posts. Naruto noticed Kiba had been staring at Hinata, who was asleep. He didn't like it. He managed to control himself. He sat there silent until he saw Kurenai and Kakashi walking together towards the group. Naruto noticed their clothes were a bit messy. That was completely unlike them. Kurenai's hair was a bit messier than normal. Kakashi's mask and headband were put on haphazardly. Naruto remembered a scene in one of Jiraiya's books that was very similar. He continued to think of that scene, then remembered what the two from the story had been doing a few minutes earlier. Kurenai and Kakashi stopped in front of the genin. Hey, Kakashi said. What excuse do you have this time, sensei? Kiba asked. Well, Naruto shot up. You two were bumping uglies, weren't you? Naruto shouted. Naruto hit the nail on the head with that comment. The other genin didn't know what that meant, but Kurenai and Kakashi did, and they were mortified. Both their faces started to turn red. Kakashi coughed in his hand. Since Kurenai doesn't seem to be able to form words right now, I'll start. Kakashi grabbed the forms for the Chunin exams from his vest. Kurenai and I would like to know if you 6 would like to take part in the Chunin exams. He handed everyone a form. It's up to you if you wish to participate or not. But if you make it through, you could become Chunin. So when does it start? Naruto asked. Everything is on that sheet. Date, time, and place. All the things you need to know, Kakashi replied. Now go off and discuss this with your teams and on the specified date and time turn in the form to take the exam. Well, race you guys to the ramen stand. Naruto exclaimed. You can't use Shunshin though, Shino replied. Fine, Naruto said dejectedly. Hinata giggled and Team 8 took off into the woods. Team 7 got up and began to walk away. Sasuke stopped and walked over to Kakashi, telling Sakura and Kiba he would meet them later. Kakashi, is Naruto stronger than I am? Sasuke asked. You will just have to wait and see in the exams. But I will say this, he doesn't let his past blind him. Kakashi walked over to Kurenai, who was still somewhat in shock. They both disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Sasuke stood there, thinking about what Kakashi said. Past? What kind of past could he have had that could be worse than what I've dealt with? Sasuke thought. He then left to go meet up with his teammates. At the ramen stand, I win. Naruto declared. Winner buys ramen, Hinata replied. Fine. Hey, old man, I need 8 bowls of miso ramen. 4 of them with pork. All right. Coming right up. Tucci replied. So what do you guys think? Should we try the Chunin exams? Naruto asked. Shino thought about it for only a moment. I think it would be good to experience it. I don't think it will be any more difficult than the mission to Wave. Well, that's Shino's vote. Naruto looked over at Hinata. What about you, Hinata? Do you want to go? Naruto asked. Hinata played with her index fingers for a moment. Well, if you two are going to go, I will too, Hinata replied. Naruto smiled, alright then, that's settled. Hey, Tucci, is the ramen almost done? Tucci popped his head from around the wall. Yeah, another minute or so. Great. So you two have any idea what will happen at the Chunin exams? Shino asked. Nope, I'm going in blind. Naruto said excitedly. I really don't know what to expect either, Hinata replied. I see. The ramen finally arrived and everyone began to eat. With Team 9, Guy-sensei tells me all 3 rookie teams are entering this year for the exams, Lee said. He was sitting on a battered training dummy in one of the various training grounds. It's too soon. They haven't even been out of the academy for more than 2 months, Tenten added. Weaklings shouldn't participate in such events, Niji added darkly. I would like to see this Naruto kid's abilities. They say he trained with Jiraiya of the Sannin for almost 3 years. Lee exclaimed. He was the worst in the academy before Jiraiya took him. Once a failure, always a failure, Niji stated. I wouldn't be so sure, Niji. I've heard he completed an A-rank mission already, and that he is the reason why Zabuza has joined the village, Lee added. Did someone call my name? A dark voice rang through the trees. The 3 genin looked around to see Zabuza standing in the tree directly behind them. They didn't even know he was there till he spoke. Well, if it isn't another Hyuga, although I like the one called Hinata better. She isn't so arrogant to think just because someone failed they can't become better. Only people who don't even try to understand the world around them say such crap. The 3 genin were glued to their positions. He was letting out such killer intent they couldn't move. What do you want? Tenten managed to say, despite the killer intent. Nothing, I just heard someone saying stupid shit and decided to voice my opinion on the matter, that's all. Zabuza then disappeared in a swirl of water. With Haku was walking around town, talking with Ino. Ever since he arrived in the village and met this young blonde, he seemed to wander over to the flower shop every day. He had yet to work up the nerve to tell her what he did for a living and who he was associated with. She had been kind enough not to pry when he said he didn't want to talk about it just yet. They arrived at the park. Want to take a stroll through the park, Ino? Ino smiled at Haku. Sure, she replied. I'm going to be taking the Chunin exam soon. Really? That sounds like it might be a bit hard. Yeah, but my teammates want to do it and I don't want to hold them back, Haku smiled. Well, I suppose all I can say is do your best. A light pink blush crept across Ino's face. Thanks. Haku saw Zabuza in one of the trees he and Ino passed. The look on his face told Haku it was time to get back to work. Sorry Ino, but I have to be going now. Ino nodded and did something rather impulsive and kissed him on the cheek. She ran off and began to berate herself. Why did I do that? I mean, he's a nice guy and all, but... Ino thought. Ino looked back to see Haku was already gone. Haku was standing behind a tree with Zabuza. I've never been good at giving advice, but the longer you wait to tell her you're a ninja of this village and that you came here with me, the more complicated everything will become in the long run. I'll tell her when I... Haku trailed off. He really wasn't sure when to tell her. What are you going to do? Follow her around when she takes the Chunin exams? You know that could get a little awkward, Zabuza said, trying to tease the young man. Haku ground his teeth a little in frustration. It was really the first time he dealt with a girl his age that he liked. Hell, Hinata was the only girl around his age he had met before Ino. Well, we were assigned to the Chunin exams for our first real assignment, so I'll tell her then. Oh, I filled out the papers to adopt you, just so you know, Zabuza said quickly. He was slightly embarrassed. For the past few days, Haku had practically begged him fill out the adoption papers. Really? Yeah. Haku jumped on him, hugging the ex-demon of the mist. So, Oto-san, what are we doing today? Haku asked excitedly. I hope you don't intend to call me that all the time. I do have an image to uphold, you know. Whenever I feel like it, Ota-san. And there goes my image. A few hours later in Kakashi's apartment, that was wonderful Kakashi-kun, Kurenai said seductively. She moved under the covers towards Kakashi and pressed her body up against his. She sighed contently. She was a bit sore from round 2. I really liked it when you did that thing from page 87 from the first Ika Ika book. Who knew you were actually a fan of those books like myself? Kakashi replied. Kurenai giggled and snuggled with Kakashi in bed some more. Jiraiya was sitting on the roof of Kakashi's place. He felt proud that his work was being put to good use. With Naruto was sitting on the Hokage monument thinking about what the Chunin exams might bring. Naruto pulled out a letter he just received today from Akira from the Land of Iron. Yo, Naruto, if your village doesn't appreciate what you're doing for them, why don't you come live here? I'm sure my dad would be more than happy enough to give you citizenship. And bring that girlfriend you told me so much about in your last letter. This place can get so boring some days. There was a big smiley face at the bottom of the page. Naruto couldn't help but laugh. Akira was a lot different than his father. He was more impulsive and energetic just like his mom was. I guess it's true what they say, opposites do attract. Naruto thought about what he had just said. He and Hinata were in that kind of relationship, she was calm and laid back. He was extremely impulsive and energetic, and often rushed into things. Naruto thought about that guy named Gaara he met earlier today. That guy seemed so alone for some reason, Naruto thought. That's because he is just like you, the Kyuubi replied. What do you mean just like me? He is a demon container just like you. And it seems he isn't stable. Well, Jiraiya told me once that Suna had the one-tailed demon. Ah, Shikaku. That demon could drive anyone insane, even if you only talk to him for 5 minutes. Well, I'll just have to deal with him in the Chunin exams then. I enjoy a good killing. I'm not going to kill him, you stupid ball of fur. Idiot mortal. Stupid demon. Moron. Asshole. And so, the demon lord and his jailer continued trading insults, until they got bored, and decided to go home for the night, both of them plotting how to win the next inevitable argument. 5 days had passed quickly. Naruto was excited to start the Chunin exams. He could finally show everyone at least half the things he had learned from Jiraiya. And maybe 1 or 2 things he made himself while training in Myobokuzen. Naruto was currently sitting on the 4th Hokage's head talking with Jiraiya. What do you mean I can't use that jutsu? Naruto yelled. Fine, if you're going to make such a big fuss over it, you can use it. But save it for the last part of the exams. Naruto jumped for joy. Finally, I can show everyone I'm not a weakling. Naruto yelled triumphantly. Now. Don't lose your head if that girl gets hurt. In these exams people can and will die, especially the second and third part of the exams. People can die in the first part? Naruto asked. Yeah. There was that one time this person had a heart attack. Never mind that, just don't lose your cool and do something you'll regret. Fine, I think I'll be able to handle that easily enough. I hope so. I may have to watch him after his team gets past the forest of death. Jiraiya had no doubt Naruto and his team would make it to the final part of exams. So, pervy sage who did this sword belong to? Naruto asked. No one ever mentioned who had owned the sword before and he was curious. Well. It was the 4th Hokage's, he left it for Kakashi the night before he went out to face the Kyuubi. Kakashi never used it though and he saw it fit to give it to you, Jiraiya replied. Jiraiya didn't think it was good for Naruto to know the truth now considering he had the exams to think about. Cool. I got something from the 4th Hokage. Naruto yelled triumphantly. Calm down, it's about time you met up with your team and head to the first part of the exams. Jiraiya stated. Naruto seemed to calm down immediately when Jiraiya said it was time. Alright pervy sage, I'll see you around then. Naruto disappeared in a swirl of leaves. If only he knew it's his father's sword. Maybe once the exams are over I'll tell him. Jiraiya's train of thought changed when his nose started to bleed slightly. There is disturbance in the perv. Jiraiya declared. Hita vanished a swirl of leaves. With Sakura and Sasuke were walking to where they had planned to meet Kiba before going to the first part of the exams. Sasuke, there is something different about you after the training sessions with Team 8, you're acting different. Sakura stated. She couldn't understand the sudden 180-degree change in his behavior. Naruto answered a question for them, that's all. She didn't understand what that meant, but she would have to thank Naruto for it later. Flashback, the day before the Chunin exams. Team 7 and Team 8 had just met for their 4th day of group training. Kurenai and Kakashi had decided to separate the Genin into groups of 2. Hinata paired with Sakura, Shino with Kiba, and Sasuke with Naruto. Each group went and started to train and spar a bit except for Naruto and Sasuke, who seemed to walk into the woods. No one understood why. Sasuke and Naruto were away from their sensei and teammates. Hey Dobe, I need you to answer a question for me. What might that be, team? Kakashi told me once that you don't let your past blind you. What exactly did he mean by that? Well, I'll give you the short version of my miserable life then. Let's see, when I was 6 I was kicked out of the orphanage. I lived on the streets for a while, but mostly in the park where I could hide from the villagers who wanted to beat me. After I was found by some ANBU, I was given an apartment by the Hokage. That didn't stop the villagers from writing "Demon Child" on the walls of it or beating me when there were festivals. Up until a few years ago, when Pervy Sage took me in, I was beat quite often and sent to the hospital. Sasuke felt somewhat ill at hearing even that very brief description of Naruto's life. And you still protect these ungrateful people? I do. I have friends here, Sasuke, as do you, but unlike you, my motivation to train and become strong is to protect them. Naruto replied, what's yours? Naruto asked. Sasuke didn't know why, but he felt like telling Naruto. Mine is to kill my brother and avenge my clan. Noble goal as that is, all I see you do is push away the people who could help you become stronger. Pervy Sage told me once, all of the strongest ninja today wouldn't be half as good as they are if they secluded themselves from everyone to become stronger. And Sasuke, that's exactly what you're doing. Naruto began to walk away from Sasuke as he spoke. I would rethink the reason you want to become strong. Because you will most likely end up second-rate otherwise. Sasuke began to think of what his brother had told him once. What his brother had told him seemed to hinder him more than make him improve in any way other than being a brooding asshole. The Uchiha were born fighters, but if what Naruto was saying was true, he could be so much stronger if he accepted help from others. End of flashback. The two just walked in silence until they meet up with Kiba. They chatted for a few short minutes before deciding to head off to the examination building on their forums. At Ichiraku's, Naruto appeared at the ramen stand where Shino and Hinata were waiting for him. Hey guys. Been waiting long? Naruto asked. No, I just got here myself, Shino replied. I arrived a few seconds before Shino did, so we haven't been waiting long, Hinata replied. Great, we still have some time to eat then, before we have to. Naruto stopped talking when Teuchi placed ramen in front of the Genin. You guys eat here so often, I thought that, seeing as today was the start of the Chunin exams, I'd make this round of ramen on the house, Teuchi said. Awesome. Thank old man. Naruto shouted and dug into his ramen. Not a problem, Naruto, you've always been my best customer, Teuchi replied happily. Well, you do tend to attack some who talk badly about me, Naruto stated as he slurped down some ramen. Yeah, well, I just don't like ignorant people is all, Tucci replied. The three genin were eating their ramen when two somewhat familiar people walked into the stand. Well, if it isn't Gozu and Meizu, Naruto stated. He had some noodles hanging out of his mouth. So what have you guys been up to since you got here? Gozu and Meizu's appearance had changed since they came to the village. They no longer had their gauntlets on at all times. They had removed the face masks and tattered clothes. They dressed just like any other chunin of the village, although they still had their long hair. Not much. Just patrols and guard duty within the village. We're still kind of on probation, Meizu replied. Hey Tucci, can my friend Gozu over here and I get 2 miso with pork? Sure, coming right up, Tucci replied. How's Haku been? Hinata asked. Pretty good, he met some girl, although he won't tell us her name, Gozu answered. Not like we've even seen her. Gozu. I think only Zabuza knows what she looks like, Meizu stated. Gozu sighed. Yeah, no one ever tells us anything. Tucci placed the ramen in front of them and they ate in silence. Shino looked over and watched how the two were eating in unison. Even when not fighting, you two acted in unison, Shino stated. Yeah, kind of a bad habit, Meizu said. We developed during the partner training, Gozu finished. Naruto had just finished the last bowl Tucci had given him. Alright, guys, we'd better get going. Hinata and Shino nodded and walked off towards the place the first part of the exams would be taking place. Team 8 arrived at the exam building just as Team 7 was arriving. The two teams had trained together for the past 5 days, much to the dislike of Sasuke and Naruto. The two were allowed to do light spars, but Kakashi and Kurenai thought it best for them to wait until the exams to really fight. Naruto and Sasuke were extremely competitive in those 5 days, always one challenge after another. The two seemed to become friends in that time, but they would always deny such accusations. Naruto and Sasuke just looked at each for a moment before the two teams walked inside the building. The two teams climbed 2 flights of stairs and walked down the hall to the next set of stairs. The two groups stopped when they saw a bunch of genin standing in front of a door on the 2nd floor. We're on the 2nd floor, right? Kiba asked. He was confused why the genin were standing in front of a door guarded by 2 other genin, at least that's what they looked like. They needed to be on the 3rd floor. Those two put up a weak genjutsu to fool the other genin, Shino replied. So it's kind of like a pretest of sorts? Hinata asked. Precisely, at least that is what I believe it to be, Shino replied. The group just walked by the group of fooled genin, but not before Sasuke and Naruto made some comments. What a crappy genjutsu, we're only on the 2nd floor, Naruto said loud enough for everyone to hear. As much as I hate to agree with you, Dobe, you're right, it's pretty bad, Sasuke replied. The others in the two teams just nodded in reply. Team 8 and Team 7 walked past, making the genin teams there either confused or angry. They arrived at the 3rd floor and the door to the first exam room to find Kakashi and Kurenai waiting for them. Glad to see you're all here, Kurenai said with a smile. Yeah, you only have another 20 minutes to spare, Kakashi said, looking at the clock. Well, good luck, we will be waiting to hear how you all did from the proctor, Kurenai said before vanishing from sight with Kakashi. The two teams walked through the door to find Team 10 standing there. It seemed they had just arrived as well. Oh hey guys, you decided to take the exams too? Naruto asked Team 10. Yeah, although now I'm regretting it, this thing's going to be such a drag, Shikamaru replied. So what do you think this exam is all about? Sakura asked. Don't know. It probably won't be anything too hard, Sasuke replied. I hope it's nothing too boring. Naruto whined. Hinata giggled and Shino adjusted his glasses and sighed. You guys should stop talking like this is a picnic, said a ninja with a leaf headband. He wore mostly purple and had rather large glasses. The genin looked at him and wondered who he was. "Who are you?" Ino asked. "My name is Kabuto, and I'm taking the exams just like you." "You guys really should act more like ninja than kids," Kabuto said, pointing at the rather large amount of genin sitting at the seats. The rookie 9 looked at the genin. They all looked older than they did and far more experienced. There were genin from many different villages and it showed, and not just because of their headbands. Some had mohawks, face masks, some had vests on while others had simple shirts or cloaks covering them from the neck down. "So have you been here before, Kabuto?" Shikamaru asked. "Yeah, 7 times now," he said jokingly. "So you know a lot about what's going to happen, right?" Sasuke asked. "Yep, I even have these," Kabuto said, pulling out a stack of what looked like cards. Kabuto pulled out one of the cards and pushed chakra into it, revealing a map and a 3D image on it. "What's that?" Sakura asked. "This is a map of the elemental nations. It also has the number of genin teams sent to here to take the Chunin exams," Kabuto replied. "Wow, the Sound Village must be pretty weak if they only sent one team," Ino said loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. "No, they're just new, that's all," Kabuto replied. "Do you have information on individuals?" Sasuke asked. "Yeah, I sure do." "Alright, show me Gaara." "Alright, Gaara it is then." Kabuto pulled a card and pushed chakra into revealing some information about him along with missions completed. "Well, this is impressive. He's done quite a few B and C-ranked missions. And he's never been injured, which is quite a feat, although I have no data on his fighting abilities now. That's odd." Most of the rookie 9 stiffened at hearing what that Gaara kid was capable of. "The genin teams shouldn't be taken lightly this year," Kabuto stated. "Yeah, so what? I'll take them all on right now," Naruto yelled. He really wanted to show off what he could do. All the genin sitting gripped their weapons and glared at the blonde-haired loudmouth. Now, calm down. You'll have plenty of chances to fight during the next part of the exams," Kabuto said. "Yeah, shut up, Naruto, I don't want to die just yet," Sakura yelled. Off in the crowd of candidates, the Sound Ninja weren't too happy about the being weak comment that blonde-haired brat had made. "You heard what that blonde bitch said about our village," said a ninja with black spiky hair. "Yeah, she said we were weak," replied a female ninja with long black hair. "I think we should show her we aren't." "Agreed," said the third teammate whose face was mostly covered in bandages. The Sound genin swiftly darted through the crowd of genin. The female Sound genin, once she was clear of all the other genin, threw 3 senbon needles directly at Ino's head. The senbon needles were intercepted halfway by a newcomer senbon. 2 very familiar figures now stood in between the Sound genin and the rookie 9. The entire room seemed to stiffen at the sight of the former demon of the mist, Zabuza Momochi. "Cut the crap. There is no fighting, at least not in here." "Hey, Zabuza, Haku, how you been? I haven't really seen you since we got back from Wave," Naruto said happily. "Hey brat. Yeah, we have been pretty busy since we joined the village," Zabuza replied. The entire room was dumbfounded. The blonde child was speaking so casually to the former demon of the mist. Ino only stared at Haku. She had no idea he was a ninja or that he worked with Zabuza Momochi. Haku walked over to Ino. I know I should have said something, it's just, well." Haku was trying to figure out what to say but couldn't think of anything. "So you were one of the ninja that joined with Zabuza?" Ino asked. Haku nodded. He was ashamed he didn't say anything earlier. "I'm sorry, I didn't even think you would talk to me if you knew." "Haku, you can talk with the girl about this later. The exams are about to begin," Zabuza stated in a bored tone. Haku sighed. "Would it be alright if we talked later?" he asked Ino. "Of course," Ino replied. Zabuza and Haku disappeared just as the first proctor and his assistants appeared in the room. "All right. Cut the crap. I am Ibiki Marino, your first proctor. The first exam begins now," Ibiki said, getting everyone's attention. Ibiki had two rather large scars on his face, and a headband covering the rest of his head. He also had a long black coat making him look rather ominous. "Hey, what's up, Scarface?" Naruto shouted to Ibiki from across the room. No one laughed, but they really wanted to. "Get your asses into a seat or be disqualified now," Ibiki yelled. He didn't like the nickname that blonde brat had given him. In the matter of seconds everyone had taken a seat. Naruto and Hinata had somehow managed to sit together even though they were trying to avoid it. "Guy can't take a joke, can he?" Naruto mumbled. Hinata couldn't but giggle at her secret boyfriend. "Now the first part of the exams is a written test," Ibiki stated. "You've got to be kidding me." Naruto mumbled, "I have a few rules and I don't like repeating myself, so pay attention the first time," Ibiki said as he started to write on the chalkboard behind him. "These tests are graded on a point reduction system. You will begin the test with a perfect score of 10 points, but every question you answer incorrectly, well, it's easy enough to guess that 1 point will be reduced for each wrong answer. Teams will pass on the total score between the ninja on the team, so not just one or two of you have to pass, but all three of you have to pass." Ibiki finished writing on the board behind him. "Man, what a drag," Shikamaru thought. "Now the ninja seated around the room are there to make sure you don't cheat. Every time they do catch you cheating they will deduct 2 points. A word of warning, don't get caught 5 times or you will be out of here before the test is over." Man, Scarface needs to lighten up a little, Naruto thought. Now the 10th question will be given out 15 minutes before the end of the exams. Now begin. Everyone turned over their papers and began to read over the questions. "Well, I can't answer a single one of these questions. And I have no way of cheating without being caught, so I guess I'll just draw something," Naruto thought. He wasn't really worried about the test. He would just have to get the 10th question right, that's all. The other genin were reading over the questions and wondering how on earth they were going to answer these questions. 10 minutes had passed and quite a few teams had already been called out. Everyone at that point knew you had to cheat to actually answer the questions on this test. It was just a matter of whether or not you could do it without getting caught. Sakura, although, didn't need to cheat to be able to answer all the questions. She was just too smart for her own good. Hinata activated her Byakugan so she could see what the answers were without even needing to look in any specific direction. Shino, for his part, used his bugs to get the answers for the questions. He had sent a few bugs throughout the room to check and see which candidates had already answered the questions. Team 10 was waiting on Ino because she would use her mind transfer jutsu to get them the answer needed. Kiba was using his dog Akamaru as a spotter to get the answers he needed for the test. There was only 20 minutes now and about half the genin teams had been disqualified. Naruto had just finished drawing another frog in one of the answer boxes when Ibiki called time. "Alright, you degenerates, it's time for the 10th question. Now there are some special rules that only apply to question 10. Try not to let them frighten you," Ibiki said in a dark tone, making quite a few of the genin quite uneasy. Off in a waiting room, Kurenai, Kakashi and Asuma were sitting in a room close to where the first exams were being given. The room wasn't very large, it had a small coffee table in the center of the room with a couch on either side of the table. Asuma sat on one couch while Kurenai sat up against Kakashi on the other. "I wonder how they're doing?" Kakashi asked. "Not sure. Probably not too well, considering Ibiki is the first proctor," Asuma answered as he flicked his cigarette into the trash can. "So they got that sadist to be the proctor this year?" "What do you mean?" Kurenai asked. "Well, he's head of the torture unit for the Umbu. He doesn't use physical torture. All he has to do is talk and he will have you spilling your guts about everything, Kakashi replied. Yeah, and I'm going to make $200 off him, Jiraiya said, coming into the room with Zabuza. What do you mean you're going to make money off Ibiki? Kurenai asked. Oh, you will see, Jiraiya said, with a big grin on his face. In the exam room, alright. Rule 1, you are free to choose to answer the 10th question or not. Wait, what if we choose not to answer the 10th question? Temari asked. Ibiki started to chuckle darkly. Even if you got all the other answer correct you would get a 0 and you and your team fails. There were mumbled whispers throughout the class. Now let me finish. If you choose to take the 10th question and answer incorrectly, you will be banned from ever taking this exam again. That's a huge load of crap. There are tons of people here who got to take this exam more than once. Kiba yelled in protest. Well, I wasn't making the rules back then, Ibiki said sadistically. Naruto looked over at Hinata who was fidgeting nervously. Naruto put a hand on hers, calming her down. All right. Those who do not want to attempt the 10th question raise your hands. A short time passed and nothing happened until a female genin near Naruto and Hinata raised her hand to leave while apologizing to her teammates. After that first team walked out, quite a few others followed suit fearing they would mess up. Ibiki looked at Naruto. He seemed to be drawing something and not paying attention. Did you not hear what I said, Blondie? Yeah, I heard what you said and I think you're full of shit, Scarface. You'll need to try harder to scare me. Naruto replied. So you're saying you're going to stay then? Damn right, Scarface. I came here to take the exams, not to chicken out because of something like this. So you're sure you want to take the last question then? Ibiki asked one last time. Do your worst. Naruto yelled back. Ibiki looked around the room after hearing what the blonde brat had said. They all stiffened their resolves. It seems they don't want to be outdone by a genin fresh out of the academy. Ibiki thought. Very well, I guess I have one thing left to say and that is, you all pass. Everyone stared at the first proctor in disbelief. They didn't understand why they weren't asked a 10th question. Alright, I'm starving. Now that this boring part of the exams is over, I'm going to get some ramen, Naruto said, getting everyone's attention. Temari was about to ask what the 10th question was all about when something came flying through the window. There stood the purple-haired snake mistress of Konoha. You're slipping, Ibiki. You let far too many pass this time. Maybe. Or it could be we just have a great crop of candidates this year, Anko. Yeah, right. I'll be sure to cut them the numbers down by less than half when I'm done with them. You could hear several people gulp after what Anko had said. All right, you little maggots, you will meet me at training ground 44 tomorrow morning. I'll be sure to let your sensei know. Dismissed. The genin left the room in silent confusion, well, most of them at least. They still didn't get what the 10th question was really about, but they would most likely understand it later on in life. As everyone was walking down the hall, the genin began to talk about how many of the questions they were able to answer. Hey Naruto, how many did you answer? Shikamaru asked. None at all, but I did draw some pictures on the page during the test. Naruto said happily. Wait, you passed without even answering a single question? One of the genin that passed the 10th question asked. Yep. Idiot, Sasuke muttered. Team, Naruto shot back. The genin looked at both Sasuke and Naruto and saw grins on their faces. Man, tomorrow is going to be such a drag, Shikamaru moaned. Oh, quit your complaining. Temari shouted. The genin teams exited the exam building and went their separate ways. Ino was rather conflicted about a certain dark-haired boy. She wasn't sure what to say when she saw him. Back in the exam room, Ibiki was gathering the test sheets when he came to the blonde's test sheet. Well, that's interesting. I passed someone who answered none of questions at all and insulted me. He looked at what the boy had actually written on the page. The page had "Scar Face" written all over it and some drawings of toads on it. And at the bottom of the page there was something written. Think of a better test. This one was so boring, and not everyone is good at gathering information. Some of us are fighters and won't be sent on information gathering missions. That boy is rather interesting. He acts like a total idiot, but is quite the opposite, Ibiki thought, as he exited the room with the test sheets. Ibiki walked into the room that the Jounin senseis were waiting in. So how did our genin do? Kurenai asked. Well, they all passed, and that one called Naruto gave me a nickname, Ibiki replied. He hated what Naruto kept calling him. What did he call you? Asuma asked. He called me Scar Face. I rather dislike it, Ibiki replied. The three Jounin were trying not to laugh at Ibiki's new nickname. You owe me 200 Ibiki, Jiraiya said happily. Yeah, not like you need the money anyhow, Ibiki replied, handing over the money that he fished out of his coat. The Jounin in the room were confused as to what their bet could have been. Jiraiya, seeing their confusion, decided to tell them what the bet really was. I bet Ibiki here that Naruto would give him a nickname that went with his facial features. Which the kid did as soon as I appeared in the room, Ibiki said in an amused tone. Ibiki wasn't bitter about it at all. He was actually surprised a 12-year-old had the guts to do something like that. The Jounin instructors looked at the clock and knew it was time to go. They left Ibiki and Jiraiya in the room. So Ibiki, what did you think of Naruto? He's hiding lots of things from us. That's what I think. Jiraiya laughed and sat down on the edge of one of the couches. I'm sure you're right. Even I don't know everything that goes on in his head anymore. So, do you think he has spoken with the fox? By now? Yeah, he probably has. Of course, I doubt he will tell anyone that, though. Well, we are all entitled to our own secrets. That means a lot coming from you, considering you're the head of the interrogation unit. The two men laughed and walked out of the room. They were off to some bar to get a drink. With Ino, it had been a few hours since they finished the first exam. Ino and her team had met up with their sensei Asuma Sarutobi. She had just walked out of the restaurant she and her team had dinner at for their passing the first part of the exams. Ino sighed, her mind drifted off to a certain boy with long brown hair named Haku, but that's all she really knew about him. Well, that wasn't true. She now knew he had recently joined the village with Zabuza Momochi. Ino walked towards the flower shop her mom owned. She didn't expect to see Haku sitting outside the shop waiting for her. How long have you been waiting? Ino asked. Since the first exam started. I felt I deserved to be made to wait, since you had to do the same for me, concerning my ties with Zabuza, Haku replied. Oh, I see, Ino said. Are you angry with that I didn't tell you? Disappointed a little, I guess, but not angry. How about we start over then? Haku asked. Ino smiled. Sure. My name is Ino Yamanaka. What's yours? Mine is Haku Momochi. Momochi? Ino was confused with the last name. Yes, Zabuza adopted me recently. He really isn't as bad as everyone makes him out to be. Ino smiled. Sounds interesting. Tell me more, she said happily. The two walked inside the flower shop talking about the other side that Zabuza doesn't show to everyone. The teams of Genin stood before one of the various gates surrounding Training Area 44. Beyond the gates were massive trees. The trees within the area looked almost prehistoric. Whatever bugs or animals lived within that area would probably prove to be very dangerous. Kurenai told them to pack for at least a few days' worth of supplies. The three Genin in Team 8 were checking to make sure they had everything they would need. They each wore a small backpack filled with things they would need for this step of the exams. Kurenai had told them how dangerous the next leg of the exams was going to be. However, they didn't really think it would be, until they saw the forest that they would be entering. Shino had packed the lightest of the three, considering the bugs within him help sustain his body in case of emergency and were his doctors in a sense. Naruto packed rather heavily. A few storage scrolls in his backpack were filled with who knows what. He, of course, brought along his sword. He had a bad feeling he was going to be using it a lot. Hinata packed heavily as well, but she mostly packed medical supplies. Recently she took up studying basic field medic duties. She wasn't the best fighter and she felt she needed to contribute more. The three stood there looking at the massive fence that encompassed the entire forest, until Naruto spoke up. Shino, do you think you could use the bugs within that place to our advantage? Naruto asked. Excellent idea, Naruto. That would give us a great advantage, Shino replied. Shino was surprised Naruto suggested such a thing. Naruto had never really shown much intelligence before. So what's our plan? Naruto asked. Well, I can find a team for us to fight with my Byakugan, Hinata mumbled. And I'll use my bugs and the bugs within the forest to help use either trap or kill the opposing team, Shino added. Well, seems we have our strategy down. Naruto stated with a smile. Naruto looked to see Teams 7 and 10. They seemed to be discussing something amongst themselves. They were probably trying to form a plan of action just as Team 8 just had. Everyone turned when Anko appeared before the group of Genin. She was eating some dango as she walked up to them. Welcome to Training Area 44, or the Forest of Death, as I like to call it. This is where the Real exam begins. There are 2 scrolls, Earth and Heaven. Each team will receive one or the other, and you will fight each other to obtain both. I would prefer you fight to the death, but that's me. This will cut the number of teams passing by at least half. Now, one person from each team, go over to the tent and receive your scrolls. The one appointed by each team as their team leader went over to the tent to receive a scroll. Naruto went for Team 8, Sasuke went for Team 7, and Shikamaru bitched and moaned, but he went for Team 10. Each team got a scroll. Oddly enough, each of the rookie teams received a Earth scroll. Are you guys as uncomfortable with attacking the rookie teams as I am? Naruto asked. Shino and Hinata nodded. They weren't too comfortable with the idea attacking them either. I would rather assist them than attack them, Naruto-kun. Hinata replied. Same here, Hinata-chan. What about you, Shino? Are you okay with that? Whatever you two decide on, I will assist, he replied. Great. Anko cleared her throat, getting everyone's attention. Again. Now, do not, under any circumstances, open those scrolls, until you've reached the tower. Why not, crazy snake lady? Naruto asked. A kunai sailed through the air. Naruto just stepped to the side and avoided it. Because, she was now behind Naruto with a kunai to his throat. You fail if you open them before then. Anko noticed Naruto wasn't panicking at all even with the kunai pressed against his throat. In fact, he was aerially calm. Anko put down the kunai and walked away. Are you alright, Naruto-kun? Hinata whispered. Of course I am, Hinata-chan, he replied. Now you will have 5 days to get both scrolls and make it to the tower in the forest. You fail if you don't arrive at the tower in the forest with all 3 teammates and both scrolls. Now, all teams go find a gate and wait for them to open. When they do, the exam officially begins. Try not to die. Chunin instructors appeared and began to take a team one by one to a gate. Team 8 however had been left at the gate with Anko. If you're wondering, I've assigned Team 8 to leave from this gate, Anko stated. What? Naruto asked. I'm assigning you to this gate, Anko reiterated. Any reason why? Shino asked. All the teams had finally disappeared out of sight to find one of the 44 gates. Irika asked me to, Enko replied. She had a light blush on her face. Naruto smiled, he understood why now. So how are you two doing? Kurenai-sensei told me you two were dating. Enko's blush darkened and a small smile appeared on her face. Yeah, we are. He's such a great guy. I really like him. What about you? Find a girlfriend yet, Naruto? Nope, I don't have too many friends, let alone anyone my age that's a girl who's interested in me, Naruto replied. Enko looked at Hinata, who had a particularly sad face after hearing the blonde's words. I see. Well, you'll find someone. Enko took a note out of her jacket and handed it to Naruto. Naruto opened it and began to read. Hey Naruto. This is Irika. I just wanted to say good luck, and don't do anything too stupid to get yourself killed. I doubt you'll listen, but I had to say it all the same. Naruto smiled and stuck the note in his pocket. Don't go and hurt Irika now, he's one of the few that were ever nice to me. Enko grinned. I don't see that happening anytime soon, Gaki. Naruto smiled. Good to hear, crazy snake lady. I wish you wouldn't call me that. I call them like I see them. Naruto had a big smile on his face. Did you really call Ibiki Scar face? Enko asked. Yep. As soon as he entered the room. Enko couldn't help but laugh. Man, I wish I could have seen his face. A Chunin appeared next to Enko. Ma'am, all the teams are in place and awaiting the signal to begin. Very good, open the gates in 30 seconds. Hi. The Chunin disappeared. Well, get ready, you three. I'm not one to say these sorts of things, but... good luck. Thanks. Naruto replied. The gate opened suddenly and Team 8 disappeared into the forest of death. What an interesting one. I wonder what he's capable of. Enko thought. I could use some more dango. Enko disappeared in a swirl of leaves to the nearest dango shop. As soon as the gates opened, Team 8 jumped up to the tree tops with a chakra-enhanced jump. They all knew it was best that they didn't leave tracks on the ground. Team 8 was now rushing through the tree tops, jumping from one massive tree branch to the next. Hinata had her Byakugan activated to spot the enemy teams before they, themselves, were spotted. Shino was releasing some of his bugs throughout the forest to look for a team as well. Shino was also focusing his senses to see about which bugs within the forest would be beneficial to them in a tight spot. They were running in a line formation, Hinata in front, Naruto in the middle, and Shino was in the back. They had been traveling through the treetops for about an hour when Shino stopped. That got Naruto and Hinata's attention. They both stopped and jumped to the branch Shino was on. What's wrong? Naruto asked. There is a colony of forest leeches just ahead of us. If there are any teams close by, we can lure them into the leeches' territory, Shino said. I see a team of grass shinobi close by, and they are coming this way. We should have a few minutes before they arrive. Hinata stated. Hinata looked closer to their belongings. They have the Heaven Scroll. She said excitedly. They must have been from the gate closest to us. Shino, got a plan on how to get the leeches to work for us? The leeches will attack anything that goes under them, Naruto. Excellent. Hinata directed Naruto and Shino to the position opposite of where the ninja will appear if they don't decide to change course. A few minutes passed and the grass shinobi appeared from the forest to find Naruto talking with his teammates. They all acted as if they didn't notice the grass ninja at first. Hey guys, we got company. Naruto said. The grass ninja had umbrellas that were most likely used as weapons. The lead ninja held up a hand telling his teammates to stop moving. We'll be taking your scroll now. The lead ninja announced. Well, come and get it then. Or are you afraid of some genin that are fresh out of the academy? Naruto taunted. One of the grass ninja charged Team 8, he went right under the leeches. They landed all over him and started to eat him alive. He screamed in agony as the leaves bit chunks of flesh off his body. The sight became even more gruesome when one of the leeches moved to show his half-eaten face. The leeches had only been on him for seconds, but they had already devoured half of him. The two remaining grass ninja charged in a rage. Suddenly a gigantic centipede came out of the trees and landed on one of the grass ninja. The centipede with one mighty bite cut the shinobi's head clean off with its pincers. Blood covered the centipede as it began to consume the now dead ninja. The leader of the grass squad began to form hand signs for a jutsu. He had almost finished when a sword blade came out of his chest. "Never underestimate your opponent," Naruto said darkly. The now dead shinobi fell off Naruto's blade and landed on the forest floor near his other two dead teammates. "I have to say, kid, that was brutal," the fox was excited by the carnage he witnessed. "Shut up, you know I don't like killing as much as you do. But you do it so well." "If you don't like killing you picked the wrong profession, my boy," the fox replied. "Not like I had much of a choice, asshole." "Too true." Naruto hopped down and collected the scroll from the dead ninjas before the leeches could eat it. He hopped next to Hinata, who was stunned into silence by the carnage. "Hinata-chan, are you alright?" Naruto asked. Hinata didn't respond. She just stared at the corpses. Naruto walked over to her and wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her into him. "Have you done that before?" she whispered. "Have I had to kill before?" "Yes, back during the wave mission I killed some of Gato's thugs who invaded Tazuna's house. You looked so different when you killed that man." Naruto looked at Shino, who nodded and took off to scout the area. Hinata's eyes began to water a little just as Shino left. Naruto and Hinata just stood there not speaking. Naruto sighed and wiped the tears from her eyes. "Are you alright now, Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked in a concerned tone. Hinata could only nod, fearing her voice would betray her. Naruto looked into Hinata's eyes and kissed her passionately on the lips, causing her blush intensely. They pulled apart when they heard someone clearing their throat. "Are you two ready to continue?" "It would be rather unwise to stay here for much longer," Shino stated. He was standing on a tree branch about 20 feet from them. "Ready, Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked happily. Hinata smiled and nodded, and Team 8 took off into the trees headed for the tower. They traveled through the forest at top speed when Hinata gasped and stopped on a tree branch. "What's up, Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked hurriedly. "It's Kiba. He's being chased by an enormous snake. He looks really tired, and I'm not sure how much longer he can keep running and dodging it." "Well, let's go help him then." They three took off in the direction Hinata went, since she was the one who knew Kiba's location. They arrived to see Kiba running around like a madman, trying to not get devoured. "Hinata, Shino, get Akamaru and Kiba. I'll deal with the snake." They both nodded and the three jumped down to ground level where Kiba was being chased. The snake lunged for Kiba, who was not going to be able to dodge this time around. He was saved though when Shino suddenly tackled him. Hinata right caught Akamaru after Kiba had been tackled. Naruto had jumped directly on top of the massive snake. He unsheathed his sword and stabbed it through the monster's eye socket, piercing its brain. Naruto twisted the blade. One could hear a distinct crunching noise as he did it. The monstrous snake hit the ground, shaking the forest floor slightly. Naruto pulled his sword out and began to clean it as he walked over to everyone. That snake was too big, even for this place, Naruto thought. "I would have to agree with you. That creature was out of place, even in this larger-than-normal forest. Didn't Jiraiya say something about a man that summons giant snakes?" "I think he did." I believe the person's name was Orochimaru, or something like that. Naruto was brought out of his conversation with the fox when Kiba spoke up. Thanks for the help, guys. I thought I was about to die. Kiba exclaimed. No problem, Naruto replied. Where are your teammates? Shino asked. I was separated from them when this grass ninja attacked us riding a giant snake. I haven't been running too long, maybe a few minutes, but that thing smashed me with its tail a few times. Well, we should go help your team. Kiba and Team 8 went off in the direction he had come from to assist Team 7. They came to a stop when they found Sasuke standing in front of Sakura. They both looked a bit beat up. Shino, get your bugs ready. Hinata, try to get behind him and use your family's fighting style. Kiba, go inform Sasuke and Sakura what's going on, then join the fray. Everyone nodded in agreement at the tasks assigned. Naruto-kun, what are you going to do? Hinata asked. Me, well. I'm going to go on a frontal assault with Kiba here, he replied. Naruto charged the grass genin to give the others a little time to get into place. More lowly genin joined the party. The grass genin said in a bored tone. Naruto drew his sword and took a few swings and jabs at the grass genin, but he dodged them all. Naruto was suddenly kicked through the air, and he landed hard next to Sasuke. Naruto got up and looked at Sasuke, who was smirking. That seemed to hurt, Sasuke said. You know it did, team. Naruto shot back. Naruto and Sasuke jumped to the left and right respectively. Sasuke was the first to attack with a flurry of punches. The grass genin blocked his blows easily. Naruto was about to run the grass genin through with his katana, but his target side-stepped and roundhouse kicked him away. Naruto hit the tree and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Kage Bunshin? The grass genin wondered. Maybe you're not just a worthless genin after all. No one paid attention to what the grass genin said and kept on fighting. Shino was busy releasing his bugs to preform one of his clan techniques. Kiba was trying to get in range with Akamaru to attack, and Hinata was sneaking around trying to get behind the grass genin to strike him. The grass ninja appeared in front of Kiba and kicked him through the air and into a tree. Kiba clutched his right arm as he got up. Hinata, seeing the opportunity, jumped up behind the grass genin to strike. She was about to hit him in the back when the man did a backwards kick and sent her flying. Naruto caught her in midair, before she smashed into a tree. You alright, Hinata-chan? Yes, thank you, Naruto-kun. Hinata quickly got off him and rejoined the fight with everyone else. No matter what they tried, they weren't able to really hit the grass genin at all. It was frustrating, to say the least. Sakura, for her part, was throwing kunai and shuriken whenever the grass genin was preoccupied. While the grass genin was facing Sakura, Sasuke flew through hand seals, katan, great fireball jutsu. A massive fireball flew at the grass genin. He wasn't able to avoid it all, as the flames melted half his face. My, it seems you hit me a little. The grass genin looked like he was pulling off his skin, which revealed another face beneath it. The genin cringed as they saw the man tear off the skin on his face. It was a disgusting sight. The skin might have been fake, but it was still disgusting. You're definitely not a genin, that's for sure, Naruto stated. The imposter genin gave them all a sadistic smile that sent shivers down their spines. Bugs suddenly encased the grass imposter. Shino had finally acted. How interesting. Kikaichu beetles can be very deadly if you don't know how to deal with them, the man said ominously. Suddenly the bugs covered exploded in a fireball, taking most of the beetles with it. Shino was now only left with one colony of bugs after that. Kiba came out from behind a tree with a 2 kunai. He stabbed and slashed at the fake grass genin, but the man dodged all the strikes easily. The grass genin was toying with the Inuzuka as he attacked. He stopped dodging and kicked Kiba, and the Inuzuka went sailing through the air. Sasuke charged once again. This time he was throwing kunai and shuriken from his pouch as he made his way closer. The imposter Genin simply dodged them all with great ease. Sasuke was right in front of the imposter, now throwing kicks and punches as fast and hard as he could, but to no avail. The imposter Genin kicked Sasuke into the tree next to Sakura. The Genin imposter appeared out of one of the tree branches in front of Hinata. He kicked her in the gut, which sent her flying into a tree with such force, that blood came out of her mouth. Shino caught her in mid-air, but she laid limp in his arms. Naruto looked at Shino with pleading eyes, but Shino just shook his head, saying he didn't know her condition yet. Naruto stood there horrified and unmoving. Shino appeared next to Naruto with Hinata in his arms. She was knocked unconscious by the impact on the tree. It's not life-threatening, but we need to get out of this battle soon. Naruto was shaking with rage now. Red chakra was starting to leak out of him. Shino saw this and decided it was time to get the others off the battlefield. He didn't know if Naruto could control the power of the nine-tailed fox. No one other than Shino seemed to notice what was happening with Naruto yet. It's time we end this little game of ours. The fake grass Genin stretched his neck impossibly long. Sasuke was frozen in place in fear as the head came closer to him. The mouth opened wide as it was about to bite down on Sasuke's neck. The head was suddenly smashed away by a glowing red Naruto. Naruto stood in front of Sasuke. He said nothing, and lunged at the fake Genin. Naruto moved far faster than he previously had. The grass Genin imposter and Naruto were now trading blows. As the two fought, it looked as if Naruto was leading the imposter away from the rest of the Genin. Shino appeared next to Team 7 with the now unconscious Hinata in his arms. We must go. Hinata needs rest as do the rest of us. What about the Naruto? Sasuke asked. He's buying us time to vacate the area. He knows as the rest of us do, we stand no chance against that man, Shino replied. Sasuke and Kiba grumbled, but they both knew they weren't really able to fight anymore right now. What's the plan? Sakura asked. We find a safe place to hide for the moment, and wait. What the hell kind of a plan is that? Kiba shouted. The only one available to us at the moment, that's what type plan it is, Shino replied, slightly irritated. Shino didn't want to abandon Naruto to fight alone, but he understood that's what Naruto wanted him to do right now. The Genin took to the forest floor and tried to find a place to rest even if it was only for a short amount of time. The 5 Genin found a place on the forest floor to set Hinata down in. It was the base of a tree that acted as a cave. With Naruto and the fake Genin stood glaring at each other. You kept me from my prize, boy, the man said angrily. I know I did, Orochimaru, Naruto replied. Naruto was covered in the Kyuubi's demonic chakra. His eyes were red with slits, just like a fox's. His hands were more claw-like now, and the scars on his cheeks more pronounced. So you knew who I was the whole time? The snake Sannin asked. Orochimaru was a bit surprised that this boy knew who he was. Yeah, Jiraiya told me all about his 2 teammates when he took me on as his student. Naruto lunged at Orochimaru with his sword at the ready. Orochimaru coughed up his own sword, the Kusanagi, long sword of the heavens. He blocked Naruto's blade and the two stood apart from each once again. So, you're the latest student of my old teammate. Then you realize you're no match for me, boy. Probably, but my goal was just to keep you busy, nothing more. Orochimaru smirked. He looked at the demon contained in front of him. Well, boy, my time grows short, but I can play for a little longer. The two lunged at each other, and they both swung their swords. When they struck, sparks flew from the force. Naruto swung again, but Orochimaru parried, and gave Naruto a massive roundhouse. Kick to the head. Naruto went flying into one of the trees. The impact was so fierce, the tree gave way, and tree parts flew everywhere. After the debris settled, Naruto was standing there, with a tail and ears formed from the chakra. A wave of demonic energy swept through the forest and into the village when a second tail began to form. Naruto was grateful for being the container of the demon right now. If he wasn't, he would have died already. Naruto stuck his sword in the massive branch he was standing on and began to do hand seals. "I'll show you a jutsu I created myself. I'm sure you'll like it." Naruto's voice was darker and deeper than it had been moments ago. You could hear the anger in Naruto's voice as he spoke. He finished with what looked to be 20 hand signs. Futon, Kyubi no Kitsune wind began to quickly circle around Naruto. In moments, the wind formed the head of a fox. Soon, the body and tails followed. The 9-tailed fox made out of wind barreled down towards Orochimaru. He did nothing but stand there and smirk. What a powerful jutsu. He stated before the wind fox smashed into him and the tree he was on, obliterating it. "You are an interesting one, Uzumaki Naruto. I look forward to another round." The snake Sannin's voice could be heard from every direction at once. The red chakra subsided and Naruto fell backwards against the tree, his sword right next to him. "I suppose I should feel honored by your jutsu," the fox said sarcastically. "Shut up, furball, but thanks for the assist." Yeah, I don't need your thanks. I'm just not ready to die yet." Before the two could get into an insulting match, 6 people appeared around Naruto. Naruto looked up to see Haku and Zabuza Momochi, along with 4 ANBU. Everyone looked at how much damage had been caused in the battle that took place here. "Hey guys," Naruto said weakly. "What happened here?" the lead ANBU asked. "One of Jiraiya's teammates is back. I'm sure you know which one." "Damn, kid, you look like hell," Zabuza stated. Naruto tried to stand but couldn't, he just fell back against the tree. "Yeah, I feel like it too." "Are you sure that was who you fought, Uzumaki?" the lead ANBU asked. He wanted to be sure he didn't make a false report about that man being here. "Yes, I'm sure." "Go inform who you have to." The Umbu disappeared from sight, leaving only Zabuza and Haku behind. "So can you stand, kid?" Zabuza asked. "Does it look like I can?" Naruto asked in an irritated voice. Zabuza laughed as he helped Naruto to his feet. "Isn't this cheating?" Haku asked. "Orochimaru cheated first," Naruto complained. "You get the crap kicked out of you, yet you still got room to complain, I see," Zabuza remarked. "Would you guys mind dropping me off where my team is?" "Sure, I suppose we could." Haku grabbed his sword. "Of course." Haku walked over and took Naruto's sword and yanked it out of the tree. The 3 of them left to go find Naruto's teammates. They picked up his backpack that they found along the way. They soon arrived at the base of the tree Team 8 was currently resting at. "Hey guys, what's up? Where did Team 7 go to?" Hinata came out of the tree and did a flying tackle hug, knocking Naruto to the ground. Naruto groaned. That really didn't help his broken ribs much. "Well, we'll be going then." Zabuza and Haku disappeared in a swirl of water. "Hinata, my ribs," Naruto managed to say. Hinata released Naruto from the hug and shot up. "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking." Naruto propped himself up and kissed her. "It's fine, could you help me up? We really should get out of the open." Shino walked over and helped Naruto up and into their little hiding spot. Team 7 left already after they rested for a bit. They said they need to get their second scroll. "I see, since we have both ours already it doesn't matter to us," Naruto replied. Shino nodded as they set Naruto down up against the walls of the tree. Once they set Naruto down, he passed out. At first Hinata was worried, but she soon realized he was just exhausted. Get some rest, Hinata. I'll take first watch. Hopefully, Naruto will be ready to travel by tomorrow afternoon. Hinata nodded, then sat down next to Naruto and quickly fell asleep. It was late in the morning when Naruto woke up from his sleep inside the cave-like tree structure. He tried to get up, when he felt something on him. He looked down to see that Hinata was snuggled up against and partially on top of him. He smiled and gently moved her aside. When he tried to get up, however, he grunted in pain and fell back down. The Kyuubi had been healing him, but his ribs were still damaged. He called out for Shino, who promptly came in and helped him up. Once Naruto was up, he had a much easier time of moving around. "How are you feeling, Naruto?" Shino asked. "I feel like someone is constantly punching me in the ribs," he responded. "But we should really be going." "Yes," Shino said. "I believe that would be the best course of action, but what about you? Are you healed enough?" Shino was concerned. He saw how Naruto had tried to get up the first time around and failed to do so. "How is Hinata?" Naruto asked. He figured he had worried her when he stayed to fight. And worried her even more when he was brought to the camp with Zabuza's help. He looked down at Hinata and saw some tear stains on her cheeks. "Hinata was very frantic when she woke up and saw you weren't around. She even tried to leave at one point and I almost had to restrain her," Shino replied. Shino sighed. He leaned up against the tree. He lifted his hand when he saw a few of his bugs returning. Naruto looked down at Hinata again. "I see. How many days till we have to be at the tower?" Naruto asked. "We have 4 days left." "You only slept for one night," Shino replied. "Oh, that's good," Naruto replied. Hinata opened her eyes to find Naruto wasn't next to her anymore. Hinata shot up. "Where's Naruto-kun?" Hinata looked around until she saw Naruto standing next to Shino. Hinata breathed a sigh of relief and walked over to Naruto. Team 8 began to discuss their plan of action. Naruto was pretty beat up, so trying to avoid all teams on their way to the tower was a must, although it wasn't realistic to think they could avoid them all. They had hopes they would be able to avoid most of them, though. Hinata and Naruto talked for a while until Naruto agreed to take periodic breaks on the way to the tower. She didn't want him to overexert himself. Shino watched the entire conversation with amusement. If it were anyone else, Naruto would have continued to argue with him or her. Shino found that little bit of information highly amusing. Team 8 took to the trees. Well, Shino had to help Naruto up, but once they were up and running, he was fine. Hokage Tower Kurenai was shocked, to the say least, when she heard what her team had to endure in the Forest of Death. She had heard of the Sannin Orochimaru. Who hadn't? However, she never expected him to appear during the exams. "What are we going to do?" Kurenai asked. "I'm not sure. Jiraiya should be here soon," Hiruzen responded. Hiruzen had received the report yesterday but wasn't sure how to proceed until he could talk with a few key people. "What about Team 7 and 8's conditions?" Kakashi asked. "From what Naruto told me, they're all fine, just a bit banged up," Zabuza replied. "He told me he knew who the guy was from the beginning when they joined the fight, but he didn't tell anyone else." "I see, so Naruto is keeping it from everyone?" Kakashi asked. "Yes, he believes it's best to do that for now," Zabuza replied. "Well, I do have to say, Naruto is a lot smarter than I thought he was," Kurenai stated. "Of course he is. I taught him a lot over his training, and so did the Toads. Hell, I don't even really know what he's capable of anymore." They all looked to the source of the voice, which was Jiraiya, who was sitting in the windowsill. He had a serious look on his face, showing that he knew why everyone was here. "Ah, good, you're here, Jiraiya. Now we can get down to business, Hiruzen stated. What do you think we should do? Well, I think we should have ANBU watching every visiting ninja, just in case they're plotting something with him, Jiraiya replied. I know my old teammate. He has plans to do something to the village. Do I know what they are? No, but I can assure you, he isn't here for a chat. Very well. I'll have ANBU shadow all foreign ninja groups, Hiruzen stated. So how is Naruto doing out there? Jiraiya asked. Well, his team already had both scrolls and they were on their way to the tower when they ran into Team 7 and Orochimaru. When I found him with the ANBU, he was pretty beaten up. He must have had at least 6 broken or bruised ribs, along with various other injuries, Zabuza stated. And you left him in that condition? Kurenai shouted. Hey, don't go yelling at me, it was his choice. So I dropped him off where his teammates were and left, Zabuza replied. He's right. It was Naruto's choice to continue, regardless of his injuries, Kakashi said in Zabuza's defense. So what are we going to do about Orochimaru? Kurenai asked. For now, we wait, Kurenai. Orochimaru is good at hiding. All we can do is wait for him to make his appearance, Jiraiya answered. Agreed, Hiruzen said with a nod. Once Naruto makes it to the tower, we will need to get the details from him. So. Kakashi, Kurenai, how's your relationship coming? Did you do the nasty yet? Jiraiya asked with a notepad and pen out. Of course, Jiraiya already knew the answer. He just really wanted to see their reactions. Kakashi was impassive and only stared blankly at Jiraiya. Kurenai, on the other hand, got up from her seat, pulled out a kunai, and chased Jiraiya out the window. Jiraiya, I only want to talk. She called out. Put down the weapon and I'll consider it, he shouted back. Jiraiya ran as fast as he could while Kurenai chased him. Kakashi, please go get your significant other before she kills my perverted student, Hiruzen asked. Hi. Kakashi replied and disappeared from the room. Ah, to be young again, Hiruzen said with a sigh. Forest of Death. The various teams that traveled through the Forest of Death weren't having the best of luck when it came to finding scrolls. Team 10 was having a hard time trying to find a team to fight. They were basically waiting to find a weakened team to fight to ascertain their needed scroll. Well, that's what Shikamaru suggested. He thought it was too troublesome to fight a rested and unscathed team. Team 7 wasn't having much luck either as they traveled through the Forest of Death searching for their second scroll. Even after 12 hours of searching that day, they had yet to find a team that had a heaven scroll. Kiba and Sasuke argued every other hour on what they should do next. Their arguments were like clockwork. As for Team 8, they were attempting to get to the tower, but that was difficult, to say the least. They had been traveling for an hour and Hinata was trying to get Naruto to take a rest. Naruto, please, rest for a little, Hinata pleaded. Team 8 had just stopped on a large tree branch as to avoid a Genin team. Hinata, I'm fine. Stop worrying about me, Naruto replied. Talk all he might, he was still in quite a bit of pain. You could tell by the amount of sweating and heavy breathing he was doing. Naruto, you're not fine. You look like you're about to pass out. Hinata scolded him. Naruto was about to protest, when he felt something coming. He quickly pushed Shino and Hinata away, right before a massive blast of air struck where Naruto was standing. Naruto had been hit dead-on by the massive blast of air. He smashed against a tree, falling unconscious after the wind had died down. Naruto! Hinata screamed. You're slipping, Zaku, you only got one of them, said a male voice. Shut up, Dosu. That blonde kid pushed them out of the way before it hit. Zaku replied angrily. Well, at least we only have 2 left to deal with then, came a female voice. Yes, but the boy is the priority, Dosu stated. Yeah, but he's out for the count. We can deal with him later, Zaku replied. Sensei said we should not underestimate the boy, said the female voice. Shut up, Kin. We know that already. Zaku replied. The sound Genin finally came out of the trees and showed themselves to the recovering leaf Genin. Hinata took up a gentle fist stance while Shino took up his own taijutsu stance. The two were prepared to fight the sound Genin. Well, I guess we can play with these two before we kill the other one, Kin said. Well, you two can have fun then. I'll just watch for now, Dosu stated. Kin jumped at Hinata, throwing Senbon at her. Hinata was easily able to see and dodge the projectiles. Kin and Hinata, soon after, were both in taijutsu range. The two started off with making quick jabs and kicks in hopes to end it quickly, but soon found themselves brawling. Hinata and Kin really couldn't land a hit on one another. Their pace quickened as their fight intensified. Kin was making jabs with Senbon needles in between her knuckles, while Hinata was doing her best to avoid being hit by the Senbons. Shino and Zaku were keeping a distance from one another. Zaku would blast Shino with massive bursts of air. Shino would do his best to avoid it and stay as far as possible from him. Shino only had about 30% of his bugs left. He was trying to think of the best way to make use of them for this fight. Well, this is entertaining, Dosu stated as he watched the four people fight. He noticed the two fights were rather even. No one was paying attention to Naruto, who had a small amount of red chakra leaking out of him. He was still unconscious, but something was happening. A few minutes had passed since the battle began. Hinata and Shino were tiring quickly because of their previous battle. Zaku and Kin were pressing Shino and Hinata harder and harder as they fought. Inside Naruto's mind, Naruto and the fox had been arguing over what to do. Naruto's body was in no real shape to fight, considering the number of broken bones he had. Naruto was being rather adamant about the fox healing him so he could help in the fight. Heal me already, damn it. I have to help them, you fuzzy bastard. Naruto yelled. Your body can only take so much of my chakra at a time, child. Even I do not really know the limits of what your body can handle, the fox replied. Like I care. Hinata-chan needs my help. You said you would help me, well, do something. Yes, I did say that, now didn't I? Very well, I'll heal your injuries, but how about I get to deal with these whelps? Naruto stood there for a moment thinking about that. The fox had helped him, so why not? Fine, just don't go destroying in villages, got it? The giant fox smiled. He hadn't been out in years. Very well, you've got yourself a deal, boy. With Shino and Hinata, Dosu had just jumped into the battle between Zaku and Shino. Dosu tried to punch Shino, but Shino ducked under the punch. Suddenly, Shino gripped his ears. The punch had not landed, but something still got him. Zaku, seeing Dosu had things under control, decided to broadside Hinata with his wind attack. Hinata, with her Byakugan active, was able to avoid most of the attack, but it still hit part of the right side of her body. Everyone stopped when a massive killer intent filled the area. They all looked to where it was coming from. They looked at Naruto, who was now standing. Red demonic chakra was spiraling around him. Hinata looked at him, but she knew it wasn't her Naruto right now. It was something else. Naruto stood there, the killer intent rolling off him along with the demonic chakra. No one but Hinata and Shino had the slightest idea with what was going on. Dosu and Zaku decided to attack first. Die! Zaku screamed and brought up both his hands. He fired a far more powerful burst of air at Naruto. However, Naruto didn't move as the air came barreling down upon him. He just stood there and smirked before it impacted. I think you got him, Zaku. Kin shouted. A devilish laughter emerged from where the debris was still settling. Everyone froze when they heard a devilish laughter. Sorry to disappoint, but that won't hurt me. I must say it feels good to be out once again, even if it is only for a short while." The voice sounded ancient and evil. The sound Nin watched in horror as the figure became clear. There wasn't a scratch on him. An unnatural red energy circled around him. Naruto suddenly disappeared from sight. The sound Nin looked around frantically for Naruto. "Were you the one that hurt the young girl?" Naruto asked from behind Zaku. Naruto already knew, of course, he just wanted to see if the boy had the gall to lie. Zaku spun around and released another wave of devastating air while answering the question. "Damn right I did." Suddenly, while still in mid-air, a hand wrapped around Zaku's neck. "That's all I needed to know." The voice held amusement as he tightened the grip around Zaku's neck. Suddenly Naruto jerked his hand that was gripping Zaku's neck. You could hear a sickening snap as the sound Genin's neck broke. Naruto threw Zaku's lifeless body through the air against a tree. You could hear his bones snap as he slammed against it and fell to the forest floor. Dosu and Kin just stared in horror as they watched Zaku die. They wanted to run, but they couldn't, as their fear kept them rooted to where they stood. They both flinched when Naruto's gaze fell upon them. Naruto was about to attack the remaining sound ninja when he felt something behind him. "Give me my Naruto-kun back," Hinata said. Her tone was soft and sounded as if she was crying. Naruto didn't turn around as he spoke. "So you knew it wasn't Naruto, did you? Well, I can see why the child likes you." The energy around Naruto began to die down and his eyes changed back to their natural blue color. Naruto stood there unmoving until two arms wrapped around his waist. He blinked several times before he realized what was going on. Naruto loosened Hinata's grip and turned around to face her. "Something wrong, Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked innocently. "I thought I lost you. I thought that thing had taken over." "Did she just call me a thing?" Naruto completely ignored the fox. "Oh, that, well. Naruto, I'm curious as to what has just occurred," Shino said. "What about the sound guys?" Naruto asked. He tried to change the subject and it seemed to work. "They fled as soon as you went back to normal," Shino replied. Naruto looked at Hinata, who was still latched onto him as if he was about to disappear. "Hinata-chan, are you ready to go?" Hinata only nodded. Naruto grinned and picked her up bridal style. "En Naruto-kun." Hinata cried out, a blush gracing her cheeks. "What?" Naruto had a big goofy grin on his face. "Naruto-kun, I'm fine." "Put me down," Hinata said. "I reject your request." Naruto replied with a big smile plastered on his face. "Let's go, Shino." Naruto and Shino took to the forest once again. Hinata didn't protest being carried by Naruto any further. As they jumped through the trees, Hinata snuggled a little in Naruto's arms. "Naruto, what happened back there?" Shino asked. "I made a deal with the fox," Naruto replied. "I see. Aren't you going to ask what kind of deal?" "No. Everything turned out fine. I don't see the need to pry." The rest of the journey to the tower in the center of the Forest of Death was in silence. They ran into a few teams, but they just evaded them and kept on moving. The entire time Naruto carried Hinata, of course Hinata didn't mind at all. They arrived at the tower a few hours after they had met the sound Nin. Naruto put Hinata down. As the team was about to enter the tower, two ANBU showed up. "Naruto Uzumaki, do you have both scrolls?" the ANBU in the hawk mask asked. "Yes, have them both," he replied. "Very good, hand them to your teammates. We are to escort you to the Hokage. He wishes to speak to you about the incident that happened yesterday." "I figured as much." Naruto pulled out the Heaven and Earth scrolls and handed them to Hinata. "Sorry guys. I'll be back later." Naruto turned to the ANBU. Well, let's go, I guess. Naruto and the ANBU disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving Hinata and Shino standing at the door. Hinata and Shino walked into the tower, find Kurenai Yuhi waiting for them. "Where's Naruto?" Kurenai asked. "Two ANBU took him to see the Hokage," Shino replied. Kurenai sighed. "I thought they could have at least waited till you came into the building." "Is something wrong with Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked. "No, nothing's wrong with him. It just has to do with something that happened in the forest." "Can you elaborate?" Shino asked. "Sorry, I can't, Shino. It's not something I can openly talk about." "I see. You two should head to the medic station down the hall. Naruto will join you in an hour or so after he's done with the Hokage." Hinata handed Kurenai the scrolls and walked down the hall with Shino to the medic station. Hinata and Shino spent a short time in the medic station getting various injuries healed. They left for the makeshift cafeteria that had been set up for this event. With Naruto appeared in a room with Jiraiya, Hiruzen, Kakashi and Zabuza. "What was so important that I couldn't even enter the tower with Shino and Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked. Naruto was obviously irritated that they couldn't wait another minute. "Well, I think they should have waited a little longer to collect you, but we can't be picky right now, Naruto," Hiruzen stated. "I suppose seeing as Pervy Sage's boy-hungry teammate is here," Naruto said in a bored tone. "Boy-hungry?" Jiraiya asked. "Yeah, there are a lot of ways to attack someone, but trying to give them a hickey is just plain creepy. Did he chase after small boys back in the day, Pervy Sage?" "I wouldn't know, and if I did I would have wiped my own mind," Jiraiya replied. "Now straight to the point. Was it really Orochimaru, and did he say what he was trying to do?" Hiruzen asked. "Yes, it was the creepy snake guy, and no, he didn't say anything about what he was trying to do. But he was targeting Sasuke," Naruto replied. "What do you mean, how do you know he was after Sasuke?" Kakashi asked. "Well, he said something like, 'You have kept me from my prey.' And the only thing I can think of was that he was targeting Sasuke for some reason or another," Naruto answered. "I see, this is most disturbing," Hiruzen stated. "You mean Orochimaru turning out to be a pedophile?" "I have to agree," Naruto stated. Jiraiya smacked Naruto upside the head. "That's not what he meant, Naruto, and you know it." Yeah, I know. I can have my fun, can't I?" Naruto replied, rubbing his head. "This is not the time for you to do your acting stupid bit," Jiraiya scolded. "Sometimes you can be no fun, Pervy Sage." "Anyhow, that's all I know, but I did get to use a new jutsu on him," Naruto said proudly. "Which one?" Jiraiya asked. "Sorry, Pervy Sage, you've never seen this one, but maybe in the finals." Naruto had a big grin plastered across his face. Jiraiya sighed and sat on the desk in the room. He wished his former teammate would just stay gone. He didn't want to deal with this. Naruto was talking to Zabuza and Kakashi about swords, seeing as they both used them. "The kid is turning out more and more like his old man. Wish at least one of his parents were still alive," Jiraiya thought sadly. They all chatted for a while longer before it was time for Naruto to head back to the tower. Seeing as the Hokage would have to go there in a few days, Hiruzen, Kakashi, and Jiraiya would be leaving for the tower with Naruto. "Can we go now?" Naruto asked impatiently. Yeah, we can leave now. It's not like your girlfriend won't be there when we get to the tower," Jiraiya said bluntly. Naruto grunted in anger and the four of them disappeared from the room. "Well, at least things won't be dull around here for a while," Zabuza said. Then, he too, disappeared from the room. With Hinata and Shino had just finished grabbing some food from the makeshift cafeteria. They were just sitting and talking now about the events of the past 2 days while drinking their tea. They both wondered what the Hokage wanted to talk to Naruto about. "Do you think Naruto-kun will be back soon?" Hinata asked. Don't worry, he'll be back soon, Shino replied as he sipped his tea. They sat in silence drinking their tea until Hinata brought up another subject. Do you think everyone else is alright? Hinata asked. You mean Team 7 and 10? I'm sure they will arrive sooner or later to the tower. Shikamaru may be lazy but he isn't stupid. Team 7 should be just fine as well, Shino replied. The two members of Team 8 finished their tea and went to the living quarters assigned to them while they waited for this part of the exams to be over. They walked down the hall until they arrived in front of the room given to them. They opened the door to find Naruto, Kakashi, Hiruzen, and Jiraiya sitting at the table in the center of them room talking. Naruto-kun. Hey Hinata-chan, what's... Naruto didn't get to finish as Hinata tackled him. Kakashi and Jiraiya whistled, making the two very uncomfortable. Hinata, sporting a dark blush, sat on the ground next to Naruto, who was propping himself up. Hiruzen got up from the chair he was sitting in. Well Naruto, the three of us will take our leave now. Kurenai will probably be coming by sometime soon to check up on you three. Naruto, please don't cause too much trouble while you're waiting the next 3 days. Naruto couldn't help but laugh, telling him not to pull a prank to pass the time. That would be an impossible task to accomplish. Naruto would try, but he doubted being able to hold off on the pranks for 3 more days. Team 8 was left in the room alone. It was around 3 in the afternoon, so no sleeping would be done just yet. What's wrong, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked. He was curious because it looked like something was bothering Hinata. I wish you would stop scaring me all the time, she replied. I don't know what you mean, he replied innocently. You went off to fight that weird guy by yourself. Then the fox takes a joy ride with your body. I was scared, Naruto. Twice within 2 days I thought you were gone. Naruto wrapped his arms around her and pulled her close. I'm sorry, Hinata. I really didn't mean to scare you or anything, Naruto said, apologizing. He really didn't think it had upset her that much, but apparently it had. A few hours later, Kurenai walked into the room to check up on her team. How are you all doing? Kurenai asked. She saw Shino and Naruto talking while Hinata was asleep sitting up against Naruto. We're fine, a little bored but fine, Naruto replied. So you're all doing fine? No broken bones or anything like that? She asked. Nope, I'm all healed up and Hinata-chan is doing just fine, Naruto replied. I'm fine as well, though, when this is over, I will need to receive a new colony, Shino stated. Kurenai smiled, she shut the door behind her and sat down with her team. They spent the next few hours talking about what happened out in the Forest of Death. Of course, they left out certain things that happened with the Sound Genin. Night had fallen and no new teams had made it to the tower yet. Naruto was sitting on a bed with Hinata lying next to him, fast asleep. Naruto closed his eyes and went to go speak with the fox. Inside Naruto's mind, the fox appeared before Naruto. He had a big sadistic grin on his gigantic face. I had so much fun killing that kid, the fox stated. What do you want, fuzzball? Naruto asked. Nothing, boy, I just wanted to say I rather enjoyed my short-lived freedom, that's all. I see, well I don't plan on letting you do that too often, just so you know. I just had no time to argue with you and gave you a chance. This I know, but did she have to call me a thing? Naruto could only laugh at the fox. All the things that Naruto has said to insult the fox, referring to him as a thing, was what got him upset. Stop your laughing, boy, if it wasn't for me you would have died in that forest. Alright, but that was funny. I'll tell Hinata-chan not to refer to you as a thing anymore. Naruto burst out laughing again. The Kyuubi smacked him with his tail, sending him flying, but seeing as this was in Naruto's mind, he wasn't hurt. Touchy, aren't we? Naruto said as he got up off the ground. It seems your little vixen is getting friendly in her sleep again. Back outside Naruto's mind, Naruto blinked several times as he came to. He found Hinata's head on his chest and her arms wrapped around him. Well, I suppose this means no late-night pranks tonight, Naruto thought. Naruto sighed. Other than getting some sleep, there wasn't much else he could do. Naruto grabbed the covers with his free arm and threw them over himself and Hinata. He looked over at the door quickly to see that it was locked. Shino must have done that earlier. Naruto sighed once more before he closed his eyes. The day couldn't have ended any better than this. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained, stay safe.